Chapter 1409 Promotion to Master. Chapter 1409 Promotion to Master. Chapter 1409 Promotion to Master. Why is she calling me all of a sudden? Feng was somewhat confused as he looked at Endless Scars' ID. Endless Scars had been a legendary existence in the past. In addition, Midnight Tea Party, the adventurer team she was currently in, had been an existence that even super guilds feared. However, neither Endless Scars nor the Midnight Tea Party had shown any interest in guilds. Hence, Feng didn't bother keeping in touch with Endless Scars and the Midnight Tea Party. He never imagined that Endless Scars would take the initiative to contact him now. However, Feng did not put too much thought into the matter. He immediately put down his work and accepted the call. Guild Leader Black Flame, congratulations. I heard that even the various superpowers are feeling envious over the current Stone Forest town. Endless Scars said sincerely, a faint smile on her face. That's nothing to brag about. Vice Commander Endless is the one who's amazing. You've managed to obtain such a powerful weapon and equipment since I last saw you, Feng said as he looked at the dark purple mage robes Endless Scars was wearing in the screen. Currently, although Feng could not see Endless Scars' level, the mana surrounding her was actually visible to the naked eye, flickering in and out of existence, which was definitely not an effect that ordinary epic items could create. One could just imagine how powerful the weapon and equipment Endless Scars carried on her body were. To what do I owe this sudden call? It's nothing important, really. I just wish to invite Guild Leader Black Flame to join me on a quest, Endless Scars said, giggling. As long as you help me complete this quest, I am willing to compensate you with a secret technique tablet. Even if we fail to complete the quest, I'll still compensate you with 5,000 magic crystals. A secret technique tablet? Feng was shocked. Secret technique tablets were extremely rare items that the various superpowers in God's domain desperately competed for, as these allowed players to grasp all sorts of powerful combat techniques. Under normal circumstances, nobody would trade away their secret technique tablet. Feng found it very hard to imagine that Endless Scars would be willing to use such a rare item as remuneration. Even a bronze secret technique tablet was still quite shocking. If she used it to employ the help of a Super Guild's peak experts, said Super Guild would no doubt agree to the request without hesitation. That's right. However, unless you agree to help me, I cannot tell you the exact information of the secret technique tablet. Smiling, Endless Scars prompted. How about it? Are you willing to help me with this small problem, Guild Leader Black Flame? After giving the matter some thought, Feng asked. Right now? No. When Feng did not agree to her offer right away, Endless Scars could not help but grow confused. Most likely, even super guilds would immediately agree to her request if they were offered a secret technique tablet, yet he was actually hesitating. A lot more preparations need to be done before we embark on the quest. It won't be possible to do so within a short period of time. All right then. Feng currently had many tasks he still needed to deal with. In addition, there was the ranking competition tomorrow over at the Black Dragon Empire. Gentle Snow had already requested his presence at the event. If he went to help out with Endless Scars' quest now, he was almost guaranteed not to make it back in time for the competition. After all, a quest that forced someone like Endless Scars to ask for help, in addition to using a secret technique tablet as payment, would surely not be a simple one. It would no doubt be impossible to complete quickly. Good. We have an agreement then. I'll contact you once my side is ready. At Feng's reply, a hint of joy appeared in Endless Scars' eyes, her lips curling up slightly. Oh, right, as a bonus, I'll let you in on something. The ranking competition being held in the Black Dragon Empire this time is slightly different. I've heard that the top 3 guilds will receive an invitation to the Secret Pavilion's main headquarters to take part in the Secret Pavilion's internal auction. The Secret Pavilion's internal auction? Feng could not help but grow a little excited upon hearing this. As a transcendental existence in the virtual gaming world, the Secret Pavilion possessed countless rare in-game items. However, this was still only the tip of the iceberg. What was truly amazing about the secret pavilion was its ability to procure items in the real world that were of great help to a guild's development, such as training slots, data of expert players that could be used in the simulation system, S-rank nutrient fluids, Harmony tea, virtual gaming cabins, and other products. Even first-rate guilds would have a very difficult time procuring these things in large quantities, what more other large guilds. However, the secret pavilion only sold these items in its internal auction. Moreover, the auction was not held in the virtual world of God's domain, but in the secret pavilion's main headquarters in the real world. In the past, those qualified to participate in the secret pavilion's internal auction were first-rate guilds at the very minimum. Guilds of lower status had no chance of participating in the event whatsoever. Of course, in order to obtain these items, the various large guilds would also have to pay a significant price. The currency used during these internal auctions was not credits but top-tier weapons and equipment, as well as precious in-game items that were generally not sold to the public, either that or magic crystals at the bare minimum. Even coins were not accepted. The internal auction was equivalent to using real-world resources to exchange for resources in God's domain. To Zero-Wing, this was indeed an excellent opportunity. S-rank nutrient fluids and virtual gaming cabins were generally not things that could be purchased even if one had the money to do so. Yet these items were paramount to a guild's development. Even if one was reluctant to part with their resources in God's domain, they would still be willing to part with a considerable portion if it meant obtaining these items. To Feng, however, this was wonderful news. Currently, he had plenty of resources in God's domain, such as the advanced mana armor kits, magic devices, and various exotic potions, and now the Titan devices. He also possessed advanced speedboats, which were important to the various superpowers at this stage of the game. If push came to shove, he could even use the miniature ballistas, soul water, and soul crystals, items that a superpower like the secret pavilion would definitely want to trade. Not to mention, he could also produce all of these items without limit so long as he had the materials. He was more than willing to convert these items into real-world resources. I heard that the secret pavilion has put in quite a lot of effort into its internal auction this time. Participation in it offers plenty of benefits for an up-and-coming guild like Zero-Wing. It's best if you make some preparations for the auction. Endless Scars gave a reminder before disconnecting the call. There is indeed a need to make some preparations. Feng nodded in agreement. The items sold at the secret pavilion's internal auction were not cheap. Based on what he had heard, a bottle of S-rank nutrient fluid could go for 3 to 4 million credits worth of rare items, which really wasn't a price that ordinary guilds could afford. If he did not stockpile some resources ahead of time, he might end up being a spectator at the auction. After his call with Endless Scars ended, Feng resumed forging Titan devices. In order to increase his success rate, he had even taken out his precious magical gold as well as 100+ magisteel ingots, which the guild had collected, raising his success rate to roughly 35%. As Feng continued forging Titan devices, he became increasingly proficient at it. Moreover, when he recalled the scene where Celiora remolded and repaired 1,000 transformations, particularly how she utilized magic arrays to condense materials together, he could not help trying to condense materials using magic arrays himself, especially since he had the 7 Luminaries ring to increase the ambient mana density. After all, as long as he learned to condense materials using magic arrays, not only would his production speed increase, but his success rate would also increase significantly. The first attempt failed. The second attempt failed. After experiencing numerous failures, Feng started recalling and experimenting with the various magic arrays he had produced before. Suddenly, the celestial magic array came to mind. Out of curiosity, he tried using a foundational celestial magic array to condense the materials. As the materials took shape, the amount of mana gathered in the magic array became increasingly terrifying. 5 minutes later, a Titan device appeared before his eyes. However, unlike the previous Titan devices he made, the color of this Titan device was silver instead of a dull gray. Did it succeed? Feng carefully inspected the Titan device's attribute panel. Suddenly, the sound of a system notification entered Feng's ears. System, congratulations. You have created a new advanced item. System, congratulations. You have been promoted into a Master Forger. Chapter 1410 All-Round Device. Chapter 1410 All-Round Device. Chapter 1410 All-Round Device. I got promoted into a Master? Feng could not help his confusion as he looked at the system notification. He had long since maxed out his forging proficiency. However, he had not created any new items since becoming an advanced forger, so he had remained stuck at the rank all this time. It never occurred to him that creating a new advanced item would directly promote him into a master forger. With this, he would save a lot of time. Now that Feng had truly been promoted into a master forger, he could retrieve the master forger's insignia and further improve his production success rate. He could also start learning foundational forging skills, which were reserved for master forgers. These foundational forging skills were of great help to master forgers in creating new items. For example, there was material analysis, which allowed master forgers to analyze material to get a better idea of what materials would complement it. Aside from that, there was also attribute analysis, which allowed master forgers to produce weapons and equipment tailored to a particular player, allowing the said player to exert more of their actual strength. Due to the existence of these skills, master forgers enjoyed a much higher status than advanced forgers. There's no reward notification for becoming a master forger? Could someone else have become a master forger already? Feng felt slightly surprised as he took a look at the system notification once more. Reaching the master rank was not easy for lifestyle players, especially in the top 3 most popular lifestyle classes. A lot of effort was needed to do so. Even Cream Cocoa and the others, people supplied with all sorts of precious resources, had yet to become master forgers. Meanwhile, he had only managed to become a master forger so quickly due to his luck. He never imagined that there would actually be someone who had become a master forger even sooner than he did. However, Feng did not dwell on the matter. There were plenty of talents in God's domain. There was nothing strange about someone becoming a master forger ahead of him. After his joy from becoming a master forger faded, Feng shifted his gaze to the silver device sitting atop his workbench. Before, due to his excitement, he had completely neglected to inspect his creation. What amazing attributes! Feng's eyes glowed as he looked at the attribute panel displayed before him. Not only did the silver device increase the user's surrounding mana density by an additional 20% when compared to the Titan device, but it also amplified basic attributes. Although it only increased the user's basic attributes by 5%, this was still a rare bonus. After all, the Titan device was originally a tool specifically meant to counter low mana density environments. Now that it also increased all of its users' basic attributes by 5%, using it was equivalent to equipping an additional advanced mana armor kit. System, please give the advanced item a name. You may also leave your personal mark on this item. Since it increases both attributes and the environmental mana, let's call it the all-round device. After giving the matter some thought, Feng wrote down the new name for his creation. With this, he could make as many copies of the forging design as he wished. However, he would allow only those who had become master forgers to attempt forging the all-round device. After all, the difficulty of forging his creation was slightly higher than that of the Titan device. It would be a miracle if an advanced forger could attain even a 10% success rate. After becoming a master forger, Feng did not immediately continue forging all-round devices. Instead, he made a trip to the Forging Association to collect his master forger's insignia. While he was at it, he also spent 20 gold to learn material analysis and attribute analysis. Master forger's insignia, dark gold rank item. Increases production speed by 20% and production success rate by 3%. User restriction Feng. Cannot be dropped. With the Master Forger's insignia, not only did he take less time to forge the all-round device, but his forging success rate also increased considerably. In addition, due to him being the creator, he also received a slight bonus to his production success rate. Now, even without the support from materials like the magical gold, he still achieved a 40% success rate. On average, he could produce 2 all-round devices out of 5 attempts. With this, the cost of the all-round device was directly halved to only 6 gold. Moreover, the EXP awarded for successfully forging an all-round device was much higher than that for the Titan device. Each success awarded EXP equivalent to a chieftain of the same level. Meanwhile, Feng took roughly 15 minutes to successfully produce one all-round device, essentially spending 15 minutes to kill a chieftain of the same level. Although the efficiency was slightly poor, he could keep producing the all-round device as long as he had sufficient materials. This would be equivalent to him continuously killing chieftains of the same level, something rarely possible out in the fields. Overall, Feng's experience bar skyrocketed. Following which, Feng forged one all-round device after another, passing more than half a day unawares. Meanwhile, he also reached 76% of level 57. As long as he continued forging the all-round device for another day, he would reach level 58. In the eyes of other players, this would definitely be an astonishingly fast leveling speed. Just as Feng was about to start forging another all-round device, Gentle Snows suddenly contacted him. "Guild leader! The ranking competition is about to start soon. Why aren't you here yet? Don't tell me you've forgotten about it," Gentle Snow asked, a frown on her face. "It's starting already?" Feng automatically checked the time and discovered that he had actually unknowingly spent close to an entire day cooped up inside his special forging room. "All right, I'll head over immediately." His harvest today was considerably good. Due to his increasing proficiency with the forging process, he managed to forge a total of 131 all-round devices and over 100 Titan devices. Not only did he have enough for his trip to Karna Island, but he also had some leftovers he could sell or use as a guild benefit. Although the Titan device only improved the mana density around its user, if it was used appropriately, such as in the exploration of low mana environments, its value would increase severalfold. In reality, there were quite a few low mana environments in God's domain, many of them locations that guilds and adventurer teams wished to explore. Only due to the environments severely affecting one's combat power, players were generally forced to give up on ranging through these areas. Take the Dragon's Graveyard, a well-known forbidden land in the Black Dragon Empire, for example. Due to a certain incident, many dragons had died in that location in the past. Now, it was a forbidden land for the living, a level 50 to level 100 super large-scale leveling map that had practically no mana present, such that players could not use Tier 1 skills and spells there. If players entered the map, their combat power would be reduced to less than 10%. As luck would have it, the bosses located at the inner and core areas of the Dragon's Graveyard had quite a significant chance of dropping the stable design and all sorts of advanced designs and recipes. However, this was still just the tip of the iceberg. If one managed to get the first kill on the Dragon's Graveyard's final boss, they would be awarded their choice of weapon at Black Dragon City. Moreover, this weapon would be a fragmented legendary weapon. Hence, in the past, the various large guilds in the Black Dragon Empire had put in a lot of effort into searching for tools that could help raise one's ambient mana density. Only after gathering sufficient tools did they succeed in raiding the Dragon's Graveyard. Meanwhile, back then, the Titan device had been one of the best tools available for the purpose. In the past, a single Titan device had easily sold for 50 gold. One could just imagine how desperate the various large guilds were back then. Of course, compared to the value of a fragmented legendary weapon, this price was not worth mentioning whatsoever. Black Dragon Empire, Black Dragon City. As soon as Feng appeared inside Black Dragon City's teleportation hall, he was greeted by the sight of a massive crowd of players. After he exited the teleportation hall, the players were still packed like sardines. Normally, one could see such a street scene only in small but popular places like Stone Forest Town. Even the imperial capitals of the 4 great empires were far from comparable to Black Dragon City right now. The streets teemed with not only level 40+ players but even the rarely seen expert players. Players riding mounts were also a dime a dozen at the moment. It was as if every expert player in the Black Dragon Empire had gathered at Black Dragon City. One could just imagine how lively the ranking competition this time was going to be. Following which, Feng summoned the evolved demonic flame tiger and made his way towards Black Dragon City's underground arena. Chapter 1411 Initial Appearance in Empire. Chapter 1411 Initial Appearance in Empire. Chapter 1411 Initial Appearance in Empire. Black Dragon City, Underground Arena. Currently, the street outside the arena was crowded with players. However, the players that could actually enter the facility numbered extremely few. Players who wished to enter the underground arena needed an invitation from the secret pavilion or to have passed the qualifiers for the official competition. Everyone else could only stand outside the arena. Of course, catering to the general public's interest, the secret pavilion would also live stream the competition on the large screens outside the underground arena, allowing people on the streets to watch the matches. This was a privilege available only to players that had rented the entire underground arena. However, it cost around 15,000 gold to rent the underground arena of an imperial capital for an entire day. Most likely, only the secret pavilion was capable of carrying out such a feat. Other superpowers would balk at spending so much money just to host a competition. Aside from playing on the screens outside the underground arena, the live stream of the competition would also be uploaded to the official forums, allowing all players in the Black Dragon Empire to watch it as well. Hence, a player who achieved a good battle record in the competition could definitely become famous throughout the empire. Meanwhile, the members of guilds that received an invitation from the secret pavilion were currently entering the underground arena one after another. Quick, look! Those players in that group seem to be from the first-rate guild Undefeated Dynasty. Their levels are so high. They're all actually above level 45. Look! Those people seem to be Fantasy Shrines members. The equipment they're using is so good. Every one of them is actually geared with 1 or 2 pieces of epic equipment. The bystanders were stunned by the 5 first-rate guilds that were entering the underground arena. The weapons and equipment worn by the expert players they normally saw were already plenty amazing. However, now they were looking at the representatives of the 5 first-rate guilds whose levels and items surpassed those of expert players by leaps and bounds. Meanwhile, each of the 5 first-rate guilds attending the competition this time had sent between 8 and 12 representatives. Even the most inferior piece of equipment these representatives wore was level 40 dark gold equipment. As for epic weapons and equipment, although not everybody was equipped with one, each first-rate guild boasted at least 7 or 8. Let alone the ordinary players on the street, even the second-rate guilds attending the competition were shocked at the robust foundations these first-rate guilds displayed. "Snow, is the guild leader not here yet?" Zhao Yueru asked as she walked out of the underground arena. Currently, she was dressed in a set of dazzling crimson robes and held a blue crystal staff in her hand. Meanwhile, the instant Zhao Yueru appeared, she immediately attracted the attention of many players on the street. However, while part of the reason why so many players had their attention stolen by her was the contrast between her devilish body and angelic countenance, the greater reason was her personal fame. Just recently, Zhao Yueru had annihilated the expert team of Corpse Soul all by herself. Meanwhile, Corpse Soul was an infamous dark guild in the Black Dragon Empire. The top-tier experts of the Dark Guild were existences that gave the various large guilds headaches. Many second-rate guilds, and even first-rate guilds, had to treat the Dark Guild cautiously. Yet due to one of Corpse Soul's experts provoking Zhao Yueru, the latter had annihilated the entire 20-man team said expert belonged to. Enraged by this situation, Corpse Soul had dispatched several of its top-tier experts to assassinate Zhao Yueru. However, not only did those top-tier experts fail to accomplish their mission, but a few of them had even fallen at her hands. After news of this matter spread, Zhao Yueru's nickname of Flame, which became famous across the entire Black Dragon Empire. "He should be here soon," Gentle Snow said as she looked at the time. Grinning, she said, "Why are you in such a hurry? Could it be that you can't wait to show Yi Feng the results of your latest training?" The guild's core upper echelon knew that Yi Feng and Black Flame were the same person. Back when Gentle Snow found out, she had been stunned. She had never imagined that Feng could create such a powerful guild, one capable of rivaling even veteran first-rate guilds, all by himself. Hee. Of course. I want to see what kind of reaction he'll make when he finds out that I've already reached the refinement realm. Zhao Yueru giggled. Ever since joining Zero Wing, she realized that there would always be someone better than herself. Previously, she had been one of Ouroboros's top-ranking top-tier experts. Yet, after entering Zero Wing, she had failed to rank even within the top 10 of the guild. However, now that she had become a refinement realm expert, she was confident of entering the top 10 of Zero Wing and instantly reaching the level of peak experts like Fire Dance, Violet Cloud, and Aqua Rose. While Gentle Snow and Zhao Yueru were chatting, another team of players walked out of the entrance of the underground arena. These players all sported a crimson flame emblem, the symbol of the Crimson Castle Guild, one of the guilds that frequently clashed with Zero Wing's branch guild, which Gentle Snow managed. Although Crimson Castle was only a second-rate guild, 9 Dragons Emperors secretly supported it. Crimson Castle had also allied with a few other second-rate guilds, hence, the guild's strength was not one bit inferior to that of first-rate guilds. Guild Leader Snow, long time no see. I never thought that you would be interested in the ranking competition as well. It seems the competition this time is going to be interesting. Crimson Fox, the guild leader of Crimson Castle, said, smiling as he walked up to Gentle Snow. Aren't you here as well, Guild Leader Crimson? Gentle Snow said. She could not help but feel a little surprised as she looked at Crimson Fox and his entourage. Currently, Crimson Fox had already reached level 45, and the majority of his equipment were dark gold rank. As for the weapon he carried and the top he wore, Gentle Snow could not determine their quality due to their glow effects having been hidden. However, she could tell that they were either epic rank or epic growth type weapons and equipment. Meanwhile, similar to Crimson Fox, the other members of Crimson Castle were all level 45. The weapons and equipment they possessed nearly rivaled Crimson Fox's. Aside from these players, Gentle Snow had also spotted 2 cloaked players among Crimson Castle's team. Although she could not see the levels and equipment of these players, the pressure she picked up from them was much greater than even the pressure Crimson Fox exuded. Guild Leader Snow, either of our guilds were able to achieve a clear victory in our previous war with each other. Are you interested in settling our dispute through the ranking competition this time? Crimson Fox said, a sly smile on his face. How do you want to compete? Gentle Snow asked. We'll compete using our guild rankings in the competition this time. Whoever places higher will be the winner. Meanwhile, whoever loses will give up on Hidden Fog Town. How about it? Crimson Fox suggested. As Crimson Fox had deliberately spoken in a very loud voice, everyone on the street heard his words. What's going on? Is Crimson Castle planning on competing with Zero Wing? As expected of large guilds, they're actually using a town as a wager. I wonder if Zero Wing will dare to accept the challenge? If Zero Wing is afraid of accepting even such a small challenge, what qualifications does it have to participate in the ranking competition? At this moment, everyone could not help but turn to look at Gentle Snow and Crimson Fox. In regard to this situation, Gentle Snow also hesitated to decide. Hidden Fog Town, a dark town located in the vicinity of Lake Heart City, had a mithril vein. Conquering Hidden Fog Town was equivalent to obtaining the mithril vein, which would greatly help in the guild's production of weapons and equipment. Only, due to Zero Wing and Crimson Castle's inconclusive war over this dark town, neither guild had managed to capture it thus far. While Gentle Snow was hesitating, a deep voice resounded throughout the entire street before the underground arena. Okay, Zero Wing agrees to your conditions. Immediately, every player on the street shifted their gaze to the source of the voice. In the next moment, a majestic monster with its paws covered in flames and lightning stalked into the crowd, radiating an indescribably heavy pressure. This monster was none other than the evolved demonic flame tiger. In terms of strength, it surpassed even a lord of the same level. Not to mention elite players, even expert players would have to run for their lives if they encountered the demonic flame tiger as an opponent. Meanwhile, upon seeing the demonic flame tiger, the players standing in its path moved to the side automatically, wearing dumbfounded expressions. What kind of mount is that? How is it giving off such intense pressure? Who is that person? Chapter 14:12 All parties alarmed. Chapter 14:12 All parties alarmed. Chapter 14:12 All parties alarmed. And you are? Crimson Fox could not help but grow confused as he watched Feng approach his location. Currently, Feng was wearing a black cloak, so Crimson Fox could not see his appearance and level at all. However, based on the deadly threat Crimson Fox sensed from the demonic flame tiger, he could tell that Feng was definitely not your run-of-the-mill expert. Everyone present similarly shifted their gazes to Feng, curious to find out Feng's identity. In the next moment, Feng removed his black cloak, displaying his disguise as Black Flame. Currently, he was fully garbed in black, light armor sporting dark blue magical patterns. At his waist hung two exquisite long swords. The mana enveloping his body was also much denser than the ambient mana. Meanwhile, those within range of Feng's aura felt as if they were standing before a humanoid beast right now. He's Black Flame. You mean the Black Flame with the nickname of Sword King? Yes. I am absolutely sure of it. I've watched his battle videos before. I never imagined he would actually come to spectate this competition. Crap! Just what kind of equipment is he wearing? The mana surrounding his body feels so dense. A few players familiar with Black Flame immediately recognized Feng's identity. A huge commotion promptly broke out on the street as everyone started discussing Black Flame. In Star Moon Kingdom, everyone was familiar with Black Flame's name. However, aside from merchant players, most players rarely paid attention to matters relating to other kingdoms and empires. If not for the God's Domain experts list having recorded Black Flame's name, ordinary players would most likely have no idea who Black Flame was. Guild leader! At this moment, Gentle Snow's eyes were filled with surprise as she looked at Feng. Although she had long since known that Feng improved rapidly, she never imagined that it would be this fast. It had only been a short time since the last siege war at Stone Forest Town ended. Yet, compared to the pressure she felt from Feng back then, the pressure he gave off now was superior by leaps and bounds. Meanwhile, the upper echelons of the various large guilds present on the street were likewise shocked by the pressure from Feng. So this is Zero Wing's guild leader? It seems the rumors about him are true after all. He really is a monstrous existence. Fortunately, the ranking competition forbids guild leader and vice guild leader characters from participating. Otherwise, Zero Wing would definitely be the dark horse of this competition. The upper echelons of the various large guilds inwardly celebrated as they looked at Feng. If the secret pavilion allowed someone like Black Flame to participate in the ranking competition, Zero Wing would be unstoppable. In the entire Black Dragon Empire, most likely only the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion possessed experts capable of contending against Black Flame. As Feng approached the members of Crimson Castle on the demonic flame tiger, the aura he exuded also grew increasingly powerful. Even the space around him started to stagnate. Meanwhile, those subjected to his aura felt an indescribable pressure bearing down on them, discomfort overwhelming their bodies. Sword King Black Flame? Initially, Crimson Fox also revealed a shocked expression at his taste of Feng's presence. Very quickly, however, he calmed down and smiled, saying, "Since guild leader Black Flame has already said so, whichever one of our two guilds ranks lower in this competition will have to give up on Hidden Fog Town." Naturally. Feng nodded. With guild leader Black Flame's word, I can rest assured now. I still have other matters to attend to, so I will not take up your time, guild leader Black Flame. Upon hearing Feng's answer, Crimson Fox revealed a delighted smile. He immediately turned around and walked back into the underground arena. Meanwhile, the two cloaked players in Crimson Fox's entourage could not help but send a few additional glances at Feng before re-entering the arena. "Boss, that person is Black Flame. He might have prepared some trump cards for the competition. Is it really all right to proceed with our original plan to compete with Zero Wing?" A level 45 shield warrior standing beside Crimson Fox asked worriedly. What's there to worry about? The Dragon Phoenix Pavilion has long since investigated everything there is to know about Zero Wing. While the top-ranking experts of Zero Wing are indeed scary, none of those experts are among the representatives Zero Wing has dispatched for the competition this time. Zero Wing's representatives consist solely of the experts that originally belonged to Ouroboros. There is no need to be fearful of them. Crimson Fox sneered. Even if Black Flame does have some kind of backup plan, do you think our side doesn't possess one as well? Boss, what do you mean? The Shield Warrior asked in confusion. The Dragon Phoenix Pavilion has always found Zero Wing to be an eyesore. Do you think they would secretly send only 2 experts to help Crimson Castle? Crimson Fox whispered. Rest assured. Zero Wing has no chance of winning against us. Most likely, even getting into the top 10 will be a problem for them. After all, among the participants in the competition this time, many are newcomers nurtured by superpowers. After the Shield Warrior gave the matter some thought, he found his guild leader's words reasonable. In order to ensure its conquest of Hidden Fog Town, Crimson Castle had made plenty of preparations. The Shield Warrior then unconsciously turned to look at the 2 cloaked men some distance behind him. His body shuddered involuntarily when he felt the killing intent the 2 were radiating. He had personally witnessed the strength of these 2 players before. Even when these 2 players went up against 5 of Crimson Castle's top 10 experts all by themselves, they had easily emerged victorious, not even losing 1/10 of their HPs. Moreover, this was while the 2 players were keeping many of their trump cards hidden. If those 2 players went all out, they could trounce all 10 of Crimson Castle's strongest experts, even if the latter teamed up. Guild leader, you shouldn't have agreed to their bet so hastily. Gentle Snows said helplessly as she looked at Feng. It is obvious that Crimson Castle has come prepared this time. The 2 cloaked experts following behind Crimson Fox have never appeared in our investigations of Crimson Castle before. It is highly possible that they are Crimson Castle's trump cards this time. Although those 2 experts had hidden their levels and equipment, the killing intent they radiated was no laughing matter. They must have experienced countless battles to have gained that kind of killing intent. Moreover, she could tell that those 2 experts were already actively restraining their killing intent. Only, as the killing intent they cultivated ran bone deep, they couldn't conceal it completely. She had no doubt that those 2 experts were frighteningly powerful. Otherwise, Crimson Fox would not have so willingly agreed to such a risky bet. That's right. Guild leader, the pressure I felt from them is much stronger than even what the top-tier experts of Corpse Soul gave off. There is a high chance that those 2 players are Refinement Realm experts. Otherwise, I wouldn't have felt such intense pressure from them. Zhao Yueru said, nodding in agreement with Gentle Snow's words. Far from just Refinement Realm experts, those 2 people have already reached the Flowing Water Realm. They are capable of making the best response through observing their opponents. Feng said, shaking his head. When he was walking towards Crimson Castle's group, he could clearly feel how powerful those 2 cloaked players were. Or to put it in another way, their presence was right in his face. Hence, he had deliberately released his aura in order to test the 2 cloaked players' reactions. And indeed, just like he had guessed, both of them were definitely experts. The instant he directed killing intent towards Crimson Castle's group, only these 2 players had prepared to retaliate straight away. It was obvious that they had perceived and reacted to the subtle actions he made. As for Crimson Fox and the others, they had not shown a single reaction whatsoever. Guild leader, why did you agree to the bet then? Gentle Snow could not help but grow anxious. Going up against 2 Flowing Water Realm experts was no joke. In a situation where both sides possessed similar levels and attributes, either one of these Flowing Water Realm experts could easily annihilate all 5 members that Zero Wing had dispatched. With these 2 players taking the field, Crimson Castle had a sporting chance of contesting for the top 3 positions. If the first-rate guilds taking part in this competition did not dispatch any powerful experts, it might even be possible for Crimson Castle to win the championship. As for the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, a super first-rate guild like itself would not take such a ranking competition seriously. At most, it would only field some of the newcomers it nurtured to let them gain some experience. Won't it be interesting that way? Feng retorted, laughing. Not to mention, if even Crimson Castle has some trump cards, do you think Zero Wing doesn't? Chapter 1413 Feng's Trump Cards. Chapter 1413 Feng's Trump Cards. Chapter 1413 Feng's Trump Cards. Trump cards? Gentle Snow stared at Feng in confusion. Zero Wing had already decided the 5 members who would be participating in the ranking competition. Changing representatives at the last minute was impossible. She had also geared them with the best weapons and equipment available to her. Currently, even the most inferior piece of equipment these 5 players wore was level 45 dark gold equipment. Zhao Yueru was even equipped with the Tier 1 set equipment for Elementalists, in addition to a piece of epic growth type equipment. The weapon Zhao Yueru wielded was even an epic staff. In terms of equipment, Zhao Yueru could definitely rank near the top among those participating in this ranking competition. Hence, it would be very difficult to further upgrade the weapons and equipment of Zero Wing's representatives. As for their techniques, those were not something that could be improved within a short period. This isn't the place to talk about them. Let's go to our guild's designated room first, Feng said as he sent a glance at their surroundings. Currently, members of various large guilds were focused on them. It was obvious that these guilds were starting to grow cautious of Zero Wing in this competition. Gentle Snow nodded in agreement with Feng's words. Feng was currently too eye-catching. He also didn't have his aura concealed. Although it was impossible to make out his level and the quality of his weapons and equipment, judging by the increased mana density around Feng, an expert could readily tell that Feng was incredibly powerful. After Feng and the others entered the underground arena, the members of the various large guilds stationed outside the arena to keep an eye out for noteworthy opponents immediately reported back to their superiors. Meanwhile, over a dozen people were currently seated inside one of the underground arena's luxurious VIP rooms. Even the lowest level player among these people was level 45, while the highest even reached level 46. The dark gold equipment they wore were also of a style. These were obviously set equipment. At this stage of the game, even first-rate guilds had trouble collecting one set of level 45 dark gold set equipment, yet there were actually 6 sets here. Seated in the front of this group of players were a man and a woman. These 2 people were none other than 9 Dragons Emperor and Phoenix Rain. Although both of them were representatives of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, they sat on different sides of the room, each of them leading a group of newcomers they'd cultivated on their own. The newcomers of each side also faced their counterparts, as if they were mortal enemies. They looked nothing like members of the same guild. To the various large guilds, the ranking competitions hosted by the secret pavilion were a good opportunity for them to raise their fame. To the various superpowers, however, these competitions were merely amusements. After all, even without doing any publicity, everyone was already familiar with their guilds. Hence, during every ranking competition, the various superpowers in God's domain would field their internally nurtured newcomers instead of their mainstays. One of the reasons for doing so was to allow the newcomers to gain some combat experience. The second reason was to let the public know just how powerful the newcomers they nurtured were. Interesting. Zero Wing's Black Flame has come as well? 9 Dragons Emperor's lips curled up slightly when he read the report that just came in. He actually agreed to Crimson Castle's wager? It seems he's pretty confident in his own guild members. Pavilion Master, should we supply a few more epic items to Crimson Castle? Martial Dragon whispered. No need. The helpers and items we've provided Crimson Castle are already enough to defeat Zero Wing, 9 Dragons Emperor said, shaking his head. Sneering, he continued. However, tell the others to go all out against Zero Wing's members. Make sure to give them a beating. Let the players of the Black Dragon Empire know just what kind of guild Zero Wing is. He hated Zero Wing down to the bone. If not for Phoenix Rain's partnership being known by all in the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, which prevented him from publicly mobilizing the pavilion's forces against Zero Wing a second time, he would have long since trampled Zero Wing's branch guild. He wouldn't have let the branch guild survive until now. However, as long as Crimson Castle won its bet and secured Hidden Fog Town, Zero Wing's branch guild's days would be numbered. Hidden Fog Town did not only possess a small mithril vein but was also located in Sky Fog Valley, a resource-rich map as well as the most important level 50 to level 70 map in the Lakeheart City region. As long as Crimson Castle obtained Hidden Fog Town, it would have absolute control over Sky Fog Valley. Moreover, the several second-rate guilds Crimson Castle was allied with could easily gather at the guild town. Then, as long as Zero Wing's members dared to set foot into Sky Fog Valley, they would not get out alive. Furthermore, without the resources of Sky Fog Valley, Zero Wing's development at Lakeheart City would definitely slow down. Sooner or later, Crimson Castle would surpass Zero Wing and chase it out of Lakeheart City. Meanwhile, even if the upper echelon of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion were to find out about this matter, they would not say anything about it. After all, Nine Dragons' Emperor did not personally take action. Understood. Marshal Dragon nodded. He then proceeded to make the necessary arrangements. Inside one of the rooms that the secret pavilion prepared for the various invited guilds. Guild leader, the competition is about to start soon. Just what do you want to show us? Zhao Yueru asked curiously. At this point, it was already impossible for them to further increase their combat power, unless they took the equipment of Aqua Rose and the guild's other peak experts. However, that was obviously out of the question. Aside from that, Zhao Yueru could not think of anything else that could possibly increase their strength within such a short time. First, eat these, Feng said as he took out one moonlight fruit after another from his bag. The moonlight fruit was a treasure he had harvested from the Dark Canyon. When consumed, it would permanently improve the user's physique by 2%. A player could consume a maximum of 5 moonlight fruits, permanently improving their physique by 10%. He had only obtained a little over 100 moonlight fruits from the Dark Canyon. After distributing some to Aqua Rose and the others who had reached level 50, he had only 83 left. Guild leader! How did you manage to get your hands on these things? Shock filled Gentle Snow's eyes when she read the Moonlight Fruit's introductory text. She had never even heard about a fruit capable of permanently increasing a player's physique, much less seen one. Such a fruit could easily sell for thousands of gold. Nevertheless, Feng took out 30 moonlight fruits, including a portion for her. I got them from the secret land my promotion quest transported me to. Make sure not to tell anyone about them. Feng did not hide the origin of the moonlight fruit, as everyone present was a trusted aide of Gentle Snow. Moreover, he was also familiar with their personalities. In the past, these top-tier experts of Ouroboros were all very famous in Starmoon Kingdom. Besides Zhao Yueru, the others participating in the ranking competition this time were Fierce Snake, Windmill, Wild Bone, and Negative Life. Fierce Snake was a level 45 berserker while Windmill was a level 45 summoner, both of them former members of Ouroboros' 12 Apostles. As for Wild Bone, he was a level 45 shield warrior and was previously Ouroboros' third-ranking shield warrior. Lastly, Negative Life was a level 46 ranger. In terms of talent, he was inferior only to Soaring Snake, the leader of the 12 Apostles. Only, as he had entered the virtual gaming world a lot later than Soaring Snake, his combat standards had been inferior to Soaring Snake's. However, after receiving various resources from Zero Wing, his combat standards had improved rapidly. Right now, he was already close to rivaling Minor Wind in terms of combat standards. These people had stayed by Gentle Snow's side all this time, so Feng was not afraid word of the moonlight fruit would leak out. These moonlight fruits are amazing! I can already feel my combat power increasing by at least 10%. Zhao Yueru exclaimed in surprise after consuming 5 moonlight fruits and carefully sensing the changes to her body. As for everyone else, due to their deficient standards, their combat power had only increased by 5% or so. Alright, don't get too excited yet. Just a 10% increase to your physique won't be enough to make up for the gap in techniques. Next up, wear these, Feng said as he began taking out epic items from his bag one after another, placing a total of 6 on the table. A portion of these epic items was loot from Heaven's Burial, while the rest came from boss drops and quests. Guild leader, did you rob a kingdom's treasury? Zhao Yueru's eyes widened when she saw the epic items on the table. The others were likewise stupefied by this scene. While they all knew that Zero Wing's foundations were extraordinary, they had never thought that the guild could still bring out so many epic items for them to use. Right, Yueru, how much intelligence and strength do you currently have? Feng asked. My intelligence is at 1,370. As for my strength, it's at 400. Zhao Yueru stated proudly. These attributes were considerably high for an elementalist of her level. That should be barely enough. Feng muttered after some mental calculations. He then started taking out attribute gemstones and a skill book for a Tier 1 passive skill that increased the user's strength attribute. First, equip these Tier 3 gemstones. After you're done, wear the Magic Devouring Charm and Eye of Arnos. Zhao Yueru was rendered speechless when she heard Feng's comment that her attributes were barely enough. However, she still obediently equipped the attribute gemstones and the 2 pieces of epic equipment and learned the Tier 1 skill. How are your intelligence and strength now? Feng asked. My intelligence is at 1,590, and my strength is at 614. Zhao Yueru replied, feeling greatly elated. Good. Then temporarily set aside that staff of yours and use this one for the competition. Feng said as he handed Frostflame's Wrath to Zhao Yueru. Chapter 14:14 Competition starts. Chapter 14:14 Competition starts. Chapter 14:14 Competition starts. This is. As Zhao Yueru gazed at the staff with a red and white glow, its beauty captivated her. As a fragmented legendary weapon, Frostflame's Wrath radiated an intense powerful the moment it appeared, making ordinary players feel quite uncomfortable. The surrounding mana inadvertently flowed towards Frostflame's Wrath, and it instantly became the focal point of the room. At this moment, Zhao Yueru wasn't the only one to notice how unique Frostflame's Wrath was. Even Gentle Snow and the others had noticed the weapon's extraordinary features. Could that be? Gentle Snow had déjà vu when she saw Frostflame's Wrath. A possibility surfaced in her mind, but she quickly shook the thought away, refusing to believe it was feasible. When Zhao Yueru accepted Frostflame's Wrath and checked its attribute panel, she was stunned. How is this possible? This is a fragmented legendary weapon. Zhao Yueru couldn't believe her eyes. To obtain a single epic item, a large guild would have to invest countless resources and manpower. At this stage of the game, a first-rate guild would be fortunate to have 7 or 8 epic items. Even the various superpowers had very few epic items. However, even now, no one had heard of any of the superpowers obtaining a fragmented legendary item. First-rate guilds and below could only fantasize of wielding such items. Yet Feng had just handed her a fragmented legendary staff. She even began to wonder if Feng had a few hidden backers. You need to keep this staff a secret. You should be aware of the consequences should others discover this matter. Feng whispered a warning. Although he had revealed Frostflame's Wrath, not just any player could inspect it. Only the wielder could check its attribute panel. Hence, aside from Zhao Yueru and himself, nobody knew that Frostflame's Wrath was a fragmented legendary weapon. However, since Gentle Snow had her own fragmented legendary item, could likely guess the staff's identity. Other players would, at most, assume it was a top-tier epic weapon. After all, fragmented legendary items were truly too rare. Even after 10 years in God's domain, Shadow had never obtained a single fragmented legendary item. Zhao Yueru nodded seriously. She had never expected Feng to let her use such a precious weapon. She wouldn't expose the guild's secrets. Alright, before you enter the competition field, use these all-round devices. How far you go in the competition will depend on you. Feng then took out 10 all-round devices and handed them to Zero Wing's 5 representatives. Each all-round device lasted 4 hours, 1 hour more than the Titan device's duration. 2 all-round devices should be more than enough to last until the end of the ranking competition. Although players weren't allowed to use magic scrolls and items such as berserk potions and frost grenades in the secret pavilion's ranking competitions, they could use anything else. The underground arena's large-scale arena in the Black Dragon Empire could accommodate 100,000 people. Currently, players filled the space. The venue was even livelier than the competitions in the Dark Arena due to the ranking competition's lower restrictions. This time, the secret pavilion had invited all of the local second-rate guilds and above. The local well-known players and adventurer teams had received an invite as well. It wasn't hard to fill the underground arena's largest venue. So many players are participating in the competition this time. I know, right? The last one only included the players from the Black Dragon Empire, but I've heard that quite a few superpowers have sent their newcomers to gain some experience in this competition. In addition, famous experts from the neighboring kingdoms have come to join the fun. The secret pavilion has doubled the number of official slots in the competition. Now, a total of 6,400 people can take part. Many of the top 100 players from the previous competition will likely lose their spots. Ha! Our 100 Beast Adventurer Team's commander and vice commander will definitely rank among the top 200. We'll be able to rank among the top 30 adventurer teams in the Black Dragon Empire. Top 200? Your commander only ranked 40th during the last competition. He'll be lucky to make it into the top 500 this time. I heard that even the FFF adventurer team is only aiming to get 2 people into the top 100. After all, the newcomers from the various superpowers are terrifying. Furthermore, several hundred top and well-known adventurer teams from the neighboring kingdoms have also sent participants. That's right. Don't forget, this competition isn't just a contest between adventurer teams. The Black Dragon Empire's various large guilds are also participating. Those guilds' foundations are far more powerful than adventurer teams. One top-tier expert from a second-rate guild could easily trample an expert from a well-known adventurer team. Only representatives from top adventurer teams have a chance of securing a top position in this competition. The crowd in the spectator stands engaged in heated discussions regarding the competition. Generally, they only got to watch such a large-scale competition once a month. It was the highest standard competition ordinary players had access to. Most ordinary players envied those who got to watch the competition in person. However, these players were even more jealous of the players in the 30 VIP rooms. From these rooms, players could see the 10 stages as if they stood next to them. The difference between the experience of sitting in a VIP room versus sitting in the spectator stands was like the difference between heaven and earth. Unfortunately, there was a limited number of VIP rooms available. After prioritizing the superpowers, the secret pavilion handed these rooms to the first and second-rate guilds before dividing the rest among the top 5 adventurer teams in the Black Dragon Empire. Everyone else could only look upon these rooms in envy. While players chatted, Yuan Tiexin, the host of this ranking competition, appeared on the main stage. Immediately, cheers erupted throughout the venue. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to watch the Black Dragon Empire's monthly ranking competition. As there are a lot more participants this time, we've modified the competition slots and rules slightly. First, there are 6,400 official participants this month. These participants will be categorized into 10 stages. Each participant will fight in 30 matches. The system will randomly determine these matches' competitors. Each victory will grant 1 point. In the end, the top 100 participants of each stage will move on to the competition's main phase. During the main phase, guilds and adventurer teams that rank within the top 3 of their respective categories in terms of average strength will receive an invitation to the Secret Pavilion's internal auction. I won't continue to waste everyone's time, so let the competition begin. The moment Yuan Tiexin announced the start of the competition, the audience cheered once more. At the same time, the various participants felt a heavy pressure weigh them down. They hadn't realized that the first phase alone would eliminate 5,400 players. Every one of the 6,400 participants was an expert, yet so many people would be eliminated so quickly. This competition would be far crueler than the previous events, which had only included 3,200 players. After Yuan Tiexin finished speaking, the system began to distribute the 6,400 participants randomly into 10 groups. Each group had 640 participants. However, only 100 players would proceed to the final phase. The various guilds and adventurer teams' ranks would be determined based on their average results during this final phase. Ha! Zero Wing is pretty lucky. All 5 of its representatives have been selected for the competition's 2 death groups. Ranking among the top 50 won't be a problem, not to mention ranking among the top 10 guilds in the Black Dragon Empire. Crimson Fox could not help but laugh when he saw the system-generated lists, sneering as he glanced at the VIP rooms above him. Chapter 14:15 Who has bad luck? Chapter 14:15 Who has bad luck? Chapter 14:15 Who has bad luck? The screens above the 10 stages displayed the participants' numbers in each group. Of course, the various major powers had already investigated the noteworthy participants. The moment the system finished forming each group, they located the noteworthy participants' stages. The participants for the 3rd and 5th group are amazing. Isn't number 29 Falling Flowers, the 10th ranked swordsman in the Purple Thorns Empire? Crap! Thorny language, one of the experts that ranked within the top 100 in the previous competition, is number 1514. The spectators talked among themselves when they saw the name lists on the screens. Group 3 and 5 received the most attention. These 2 groups contained 1/3 of the players who had been predicted to rank among the top 100 this time. The battles in these 2 groups would be very intense. When Gentle Snows saw the lists from her VIP room, her expression darkened. Among Zero Wing's 5 representatives, 2 had been assigned to Group 3, and 3 were in Group 5. It wouldn't have been a problem if these groups had slightly more experts than the others, but that clearly wasn't the case. Among the Superpowers newcomers, 13 were in Group 3, and 19 had been assigned Group 5. These 2 groups alone included more than half of the newbies from the various superpowers. In addition, each of these 2 groups had over a dozen representatives from first-rate guilds. They also consisted of many players from the various top adventurer teams. Overall, these people had taken roughly 90 slots among the 2 groups. There were also the various independent experts from the Black Dragon Empire and the neighboring kingdoms. Who knew if dark horses hid among these independent experts? Group 3 and 5 were death groups. Aside from Zhao Yueru, Zero Wing's representatives would have a difficult time qualifying for the competition's final phase. If they encountered one of the seeded participants, or one of the superpowers newcomers, they would have to endure an arduous battle. Points would be awarded to guild representatives who made it into the final phase. These points would be used to calculate each guild's rank. Aside from superpowers, which wouldn't be included in the guild rankings, each guild had 5 representatives. Naturally, the more qualified representatives a guild possessed, the greater its advantage would be. Unless 3 or more of Zero Wing's representatives made it to the final phase, it would be at a disadvantage against Crimson Castle. Furthermore, Crimson Castle had 2 Flowing Water Realm experts. Those 2 experts were almost guaranteed to rank quite high during the final phase. Relax. None of them should have any problem qualifying for the next phase, Feng reassured, chuckling when he noticed Gentle Snow's worried look. While there were many experts in Group 3 and 5, Zhao Yueru and the others were no weaklings. Their weapons and equipment ranked among the best in this competition. In addition, they had equipped the all-round device. They had no reason to fear anything less than a refinement realm expert. Feng's confidence rendered Gentle Snows speechless. If this were an ordinary competition, she wouldn't mind losing. In fact, this was a good opportunity for Zhao Yueru and the others to gain combat experience. However, the development of Zero Wing's branch guild was on the line. If they succeeded, it would further the branch guild's progress in the Black Dragon Empire, enabling it to contend with the 5 first-rate guilds in the empire. If they failed, however, the consequences would force her into an awkward position. After all, she was the branch guild's manager. She had no wish to see it fail. As Feng spoke, the competition began. Following which, the system randomly selected participants for the first fight. In the blink of an eye, the list of matchups appeared on the screen above their respective stages. These participants simply needed to enter their respective stages to begin the match. Group 1, number 4187 vs number 712. Group 2, number 1714 vs number 6024. Group 3, number 584 vs number 5513. Matches occurred simultaneously on the 10 stages. While the audience could watch all 10 stages at the same time, the large screens outside the underground arena would only stream the most noteworthy match. That shield warrior with the crimson shield is so amazing! He actually killed that level 43 berserker after losing less than 1/10 of his HP. He is pretty powerful. He either blocked or dodged every one of the berserker's attacks. The shield warrior's defense is impeccable. By my guess, he should rank among the top 100 shield warriors. The players crowding the open-air bars outside the underground arena heatedly discussed the players as they watched the live-streamed matches. Most of the matches ended quickly. Generally, each match lasted less than 1 minute. Even in a stalemate, the match would end after a certain amount of time, as this was the competition's initial phase. The victors of these matches would be determined by how much remaining HP each participant possessed. As one match after another came to an end, Fierce Snake, who was in Group 3, was called to the stage. His first opponent was a level 45 Guardian Knight. That berserker, Fierce Snake, really is unlucky. He has to face Flaming Arm, the 37th ranking Guardian Knight in the Empire, in his first match. He can only blame himself for such poor luck. After ranking 37th in the class rankings during the previous competition, Dragon's Abyss, one of the top 5 top adventurer teams in the Empire, recruited Flaming Arm immediately. With the guild's nurturing, Flaming Arm must have improved quite a lot. He shouldn't have any issues ranking among the top 30 in his class rankings. When Flaming Arm appeared on Group 3's stage, many among the audience shifted their attention to his stage. After all, he was an expert capable of ranking 37th among the Black Dragon Empire's Guardian Knights. In a first-rate guild, he could become one of the guild's core MTs. Moreover, when comparing classes, Guardian Knights had an advantage over Berserkers. The match's outcome was obvious. Ha! Zero Wing is actually going to lose its very first match. Crimson Fox laughed as he glanced at Fierce Snake. During the initial phase, each participant had to fight 30 matches. Among the 640 participants in each group, only the top 100 would qualify for the final phase. Based on previous ranking competitions and the intensity of this competition, players' likelihood of qualifying for the final phase was quite low, even if they won 26 of their 30 fights. Only those who win 27 matches were guaranteed to qualify. If Fierce Snake lost his very first match, he would have to win 27 of his 29 remaining matches. Such a feat would be ridiculously difficult. Crimson Fox was also quite familiar with Fierce Snake's strength since he was one of the top-tier experts in Zero Wing's branch guild. Crimson Castle had investigated the berserker thoroughly. Based on the reports, Fierce Snake would only rank among the top 70 berserkers in the Empire. Normally, he wouldn't have any trouble qualifying for the final phase. Unfortunately, too many experts were participating in the competition this time. Fierce Snake had also been assigned to one of the 2 death groups. Now, he had to face Flaming Arm in his very first match. As a result, his chances of qualifying for the final phase had dropped. On Group 3's stage, Fierce Snake and Flaming Arm stared each other down. You must have crap luck to encounter me in your first match. Well? Are you going to leave the stage willingly? Or do you want me to throw you out? Flaming Arm snickered at the stern-looking Fierce Snake. Any ordinary expert would normally forfeit a match against him to save their strength for the following matches. If they fought him and revealed their trump cards, only to suffer defeat in the end, they'd pay for it in the following matches. Our luck hasn't yet been determined, Fierce Snake said, chuckling. You overestimate yourself. Flaming Arm's gaze sharpened when he heard the bell signal the start of the match. Without hesitation, he activated his berserk skill, growing significantly larger. Raising his shield, he charged at Fierce Snake. Chapter 14:16 Initial Appearance. Chapter 14:16 Initial Appearance. Chapter 14:16 Initial Appearance. When Flaming Arm was less than 10 yards away from Fierce Snake, he shouted abruptly. Suddenly, his body released a golden glow. Divine swords began to appear around him, rotating as he moved. Tier 1 skill, Divine Storm. When activated, the skill would deal divine damage to all enemies within an 8-yard radius 3 times. Each attack contained 130% of player's strength and dealt 200% weapon damage. Flaming Arm is merciless. He's using his signature move right off the bat. Signature move? While it looks like he's trying to finish his opponent off with Divine Storm, in reality, he's only using it to trick his opponent into defending themselves or dodging his attack. When his opponent has lost the power to resist, he'll finish them off with Divine Adjudication. Divine Adjudication is an unavoidable skill, and Flaming Arm has relied on it to pass the initial phase during previous competitions. A few participants who were familiar with Flaming Arm could not help but pity Fierce Snake. Although Flaming Arm was a Guardian Knight, he had dumped the majority of his free attribute points into his strength. Moreover, his gemstones were all strength-based. He operated more like a DPS player than an MT. Flaming Arm's strength could even rival top-tier berserkers of the same level. Even his berserk skill was strength-based, increasing his strength by 100%. Not even a top-tier berserker of the same level could compete with Flaming Arm once the Guardian Knight activated his berserk skill. Seeing the enemy Guardian Knight charge towards him fearlessly, Fierce Snake activated Power of Darkness, and faint layers of dark fog swirled around his body. He then rotated as he swung his great sword horizontally. Whirlwind Slash. Immediately, a black tornado dominated Group 3's stage. What a fool! Flaming Arm sneered as he put even more power into his charge. When the black tornado and the golden tornado clashed, a powerful shockwave tore through the stage. When the tornado scattered, everyone watching was stupefied. Impossible! He blocked Flaming Arm's attack? How high is Fierce Snake's strength? Flaming Arm was a Guardian Knight famed for his strength. Very few players had ever blocked his signature move, but if an opponent could block the first assault and retain their stance, Flaming Arm would lose his opportunity to follow up with Divine Adjudication. Flaming Arm's expression hardened as he glared at his opponent. During the previous collision, Fierce Snake had only been forced to retreat by 1 step. On the other hand, he had taken 3 steps back. He had also lost over 500 HP. The difference between their strengths was obvious. How is his strength so high? Flaming Arm refused to accept this. To help him score well in the competition, his adventurer team had lent him a set of epic bracers, which boosted his strength considerably. With these bracers equipped, he was even confident of securing one of the top 100 positions. Yet, he had lost to an unknown berserker's strength. This all-round device the guild leader had me equip is amazing. Fierce Snake couldn't help his shock when he saw his skill completion rate. In truth, his strength attribute was only slightly higher than Flaming Arm's. The main reason behind the outcome of that clash was his Whirlwind Slash's completion rate. He had achieved a 90% completion rate with his counterattack. This was the first time he had executed Whirlwind Slash so smoothly. As long as the skill's completion rate rose past 85%, every 1% increase would boost the attack's power. Upon reaching 90%, the skill would undergo a qualitative transformation. It was only natural that Flaming Arm had difficulty blocking his attack. Since I can't overcome his strength, let's see who lasts until the end. Flaming Arm calmed very quickly. Immediately, he activated Protection Blessing. Then, while disregarding his defense, he attacked Fierce Snake ruthlessly, intent on exchanging blow for blow. Protection Blessing halved the damage he received. Even if there was a difference in strength, he had the advantage in an exchange of blows since berserkers didn't have any skills that reduced incoming damage. As everyone assumed that Fierce Snake would dodge Flaming Arm's attacks, the man rushed forward to meet the Guardian Knight in battle rather than retreating. Is his brain broken? He clearly has the advantage in this fight. He could easily win if he just waited out Flaming Arm's Protection Blessing, yet he's charging towards his death. Fierce Snake's behavior confused the spectators. Fierce Snake and Flaming Arm engaged in a vicious battle, attacking and defending. However, a Guardian Knight had a much easier time defending against attacks than a Berserker. With a slight adjustment of his shield, Flaming Arm could easily guard a large portion of his body. In contrast, Fierce Snake could only protect a limited space even with large swings of his great sword. The difference between their damages was also clear. Even when Fierce Snake's greatsword struck his opponent, his normal attacks only dealt around -3,000 damage. On the other hand, Flaming Arm's normal attacks dealt over -6,000 damage. Meanwhile, Flaming Arm had over 80,000 HP, while Fierce Snake only had around 70,000 HP. When Fierce Snake's HP fell to 50%, Flaming Arm still had over 2/3 of his HP left. However, the more Flaming Arm fought Fierce Snake, the more afraid he became. As the battle dragged on, he could sense his opponent's combat standards improving. Moreover, the more Fierce Snake fought, the more natural the Berserker's actions became. As a result, it became increasingly difficult to land an attack. On the other hand, Fierce Snake had an easier time hitting him. After another 5 seconds, Fierce Snake had only 1/3 of his HP remaining. However, Flaming Arm had the same. What? Flaming Arm is losing? No one could believe their eyes as they watched Flaming Arm's HP fall below Fierce Snake's, the gap between them growing wider as the seconds ticked by. How is his combat standard so high? Has he been toying with me all this time? When Flaming Arm saw his HP drop to a critical level, he knew that he had lost his chance of winning. Not only was the difference between their combat standards so great, but his protection blessing's duration was running out. What Flaming Arm didn't know was that due to the sudden increase of mana density around Fierce Snake, he couldn't fight at his peak. But as the match progressed, Fierce Snake adapted to the increase brought about by the all-round device. Honestly, Fierce Snake could have ended the battle already. However, fighting a top-tier expert like Flaming Arm was inspiring. Hence, he hadn't bothered to use any of his skills, toying with the enemy Guardian Knight. When Fierce Snake eventually eliminated the final strand of Flaming Arm's HP, gasps of amazement echoed from the crowd. Zero Wing's Fierce Snake is so amazing! I never thought that, aside from the several well-known peak experts, Zero Wing had someone like this. I've underestimated Zero Wing. It seems we'll have to be more careful of this Berserker later on. His melee combat abilities are too strong. After the match, the various major powers representatives were a little afraid of this Berserker, Fierce Snake. After all, Fierce Snake had relied on normal attacks to defeat the Black Dragon Empire's 37th ranking Guardian Knight. If he had used his skills, he would have wiped the floor with Flaming Arm. After Fierce Snake's match, Windmill, Wildbone, and Negative Life completed their matches. Without suspense, they won their respective battles. Moreover, they also won their matches without any skills. No one had seen the true depth of their prowess. As the ranking competition grew more intense, Zhao Yueru's turn eventually came. Group 5, number 918 vs number 29. What? The Flame Witch is going up against Falling Flowers? Both are experts capable of qualifying for the final phase. To think the system would pit them against each other. This is going to be interesting. Falling Flowers is one of the top 10 swordsman experts in the Purple Thorns Kingdom. I've heard that some time ago, she even defeated Whistling Sword, the 394th ranked player on the God's Domain experts list. On the other hand, even the Dark Guild Corpse Soul is helpless against the Flame Witch. This will be an intense fight. Everyone grew excited as they watched the two women approach Group 5 stage. As soon as the match began, both sides activated their berserk skills. Upon doing so, Zhao Yueru executed triple casting. Although she had only cast 2 Tier 1 spells and a Tier 0 spell, both her spell casting speed and her spell's power shocked the audience. Fireballs, flame spears, and flaming chains shot towards Falling Flowers in rapid succession. Despite being a Refinement Realm expert, Falling Flowers couldn't keep up with the attacks. After exhausting of her life-saving skills, the dozens of fireballs and flame spears killed her instantly. Chapter 1417 Shocking the Empire. Chapter 1417 Shocking the Empire. Chapter 1417 Shocking the Empire. From the moment the bell signaling the start of the match rang until the moment the system displayed its end, less than 5 seconds had passed. The match was so overwhelmingly one-sided that Falling Flowers hadn't even had time to scream before she transformed into particles of light and disappeared from the stage. At this point, Group 5's stage had become a smoldering mess. Huh! Looking at the stage, Zhao Yueru was momentarily dazed. She struggled to believe that it had been her doing. What just happened? The audience watching Group 5's battle wore dumbfounded expressions, their minds unable to process the unexpected outcome. Originally, everyone had assumed that the fight was between two players of equal strength. They had never expected this outcome. Triple casting! Just who is she? Blue Phoenix stared at Zhao Yueru in shock. Current peak magical class experts were just barely learning to triple cast, and Zhao Yueru could already triple speed cast. Even Blue Phoenix had yet to grasp that level of the technique. Even after entering the legacy space of Zero Wing's secret spellcasting technique, she had only grasped double speed casting. Moreover, based on the power of Zhao Yueru's spells, it was obvious that her skill completion rates were very high. How many secrets is Zero Wing hiding? Phoenix Rain couldn't help but glance at Zero Wing's room from her seat next to Blue Phoenix. Zero Wing had previously revealed that it had powerful magical class experts such as Violet Cloud, Aqua Rose, and Alluring Summer. Now, the guild had revealed Zhao Yueru. Due to Zhao Yueru's astonishing performance, the audience began to pay more attention to Zero Wing. How strong is Zero Wing? It even has such a powerful Elementalist expert. I had thought that Zero Wing's only capable expert was the Sword King, Black Flame. Now, it turns out that the guild has such a magical class expert. After this match, the Black Dragon Empire's players began to look into the guild known as Zero Wing. The moment they did, however, they flabbergasted. They had never thought that Zero Wing would be Star Moon Kingdom's #1 guild. This ranking competition is going to be interesting. So Zero Wing is pretty strong. We'll likely see a change to the Black Dragon Empire's top 10 guild list. Zero Wing should have no problems ranking among the top 10. However, getting into the top 5 will probably be a challenge. After all, the 5 first-rate guilds in our empire have many powerful experts. Why would it be easy to surpass them? While everyone discussed Zero Wing, the various large guilds turned their attention towards the guild as well. They began to search for a method to deal with Zhao Yueru. Although Zhao Yueru's ability to triple speed cast was powerful, she wasn't undefeatable. Following which, the spectators' astonishment grew as they watched one match after another, Zero Wing's 5 representatives improving their battle records. 15 consecutive victories. 20 consecutive victories. 30 consecutive victories. It seemed as if no one could stop Zero Wing's representatives. Not even top adventure reams and first-rate guilds' top-tier experts were a match for them. In the end, all 5 qualified for the final phase. Zhao Yueru, in particular, had displayed overwhelming power from start to finish. On the other hand, some of the representatives from first-rate guilds and top adventurer teams, who had been expected to make it to the final phase, were disqualified. Zero Wing is too awesome. All 5 of its representatives made it. Even the 5 first-rate guilds couldn't accomplish the feat. I've heard that the Zero Wing guild developing in the Black Dragon Empire is only a branch guild. If even the branch guild is this powerful, how much stronger is the main branch? I think I heard that Zero Wing's branch guild in Lake Heart City has been recruiting members. Once the competition is over, I must go and apply to join the guild. Before anyone had realized it, Zero Wing had become a rival for the Black Dragon Empire's top 5 first-rate guilds. Its fame in the empire skyrocketed. Guild leader, are you sure about giving them so many all-round devices? The outcome of the competition had shocked Gentle Snow. She was very familiar with the standards of Zero Wing's 5 representatives. Although their combat power had increased thanks to the weapons and equipment Feng had provided, the improvement was limited. It wasn't possible for them to achieve such exaggerated results. She might have understood if only Zhao Yueru had been victorious, yet despite their assignment to the death groups, the other 4 representatives had won their matches as well. This was unbelievable. Fierce Snake and Negative Life's performances were particularly shocking. They had contended with Refinement Realm experts. In the end, they had relied on superior basic attributes and high skill completion rates, barely defeating their opponents. Gentle Snow had found this outcome incredible. After all, she was fully aware of just how powerful a Refinement Realm expert was. Such experts should have no issues defeating non-Refinement Realm experts, even with 30% higher basic attributes. Furthermore, Fierce Snake and Negative Life's basic attributes weren't much higher than their Refinement Realm opponents. The only explanation for their unexpected performances was the all-round device. Gentle Snow hadn't expected such amazing results from the all-round devices. They were so effective that they allowed Fierce Snake, someone who wasn't even a half-step Refinement Realm expert yet, defeat a Refinement Realm expert. Relax. While the all-round device's production is somewhat costly, we can make as many of it as we want. Feng hadn't expected the item to be so effective either. After fighting so many matches, Fierce Snake and the others had obviously improved. If they could continue fighting different Refinement Realm experts, it wouldn't be long before then entered the Refinement Realm as well, becoming cornerstones for Zero Wing. As many as we want? Gentle Snow was at a loss for words as she stared at Feng's calm expression. She felt as if this was the first time she had met the man. If it were possible to mass-produce the all-round device, then with Zero Wing's current foundations, they could nurture a batch of Refinement Realm experts in a short time. She would never have dared to dream of such a thing in the past. After the competition's initial phase ended, the true ranking competition that everyone had looked forward to began. Unlike the initial qualifiers, participants that lost a match during the final phase would be eliminated, while those that won would proceed to the next round. Meanwhile, to prevent the various large guilds and adventurer teams' representatives face off against their own, the system would try to assign them to different matches as often as possible. This assured that the various large guilds and adventurer teams could collect the maximum number of points possible. Aside from Zhao Yueru, Fierce Snake and the others were strong enough to rival Refinement Realm experts. In the end, they easily passed the first 3 rounds and ranked among the top 150 in the competition. However, 3 had lost the 4th round due to Refinement Realm expert opponents with epic items. In the end, only Zhao Yueru and Negative Life had won their 4th matches in the final phase. During the 5th round, a Refinement Realm expert with more than 1 epic item had eliminated Negative Life. He had lost with little resistance. Guild leader, Zero Wing is far more powerful than we had expected. What should we do now? The shield warrior named Lonely Castle asked Crimson Fox worriedly in Crimson Castle's VIP room. Although the 2 experts 9 Dragons Emperor had sent had made it to the 5th round, the other 3 representatives had been eliminated in the 2nd match. What's there to worry about? Didn't you see Zhao Yueru's next opponent? Crimson Fox asked unhurriedly as he pointed to the virtual screen above the center stage. What? Lonely Castle was stupefied when he saw the names on the screen. He was instantly elated. Zhao Yueru's opponent for the 5th round was Ilofe, the FFF Adventurer Team's vice commander. She had the nickname Frost Empress and was one of the Black Dragon Empire's 4 great elementalists. The Dragon Phoenix Pavilion had even offered her the position of vice commander over its main force to recruit her. Chapter 14:18 You still aren't qualified. Chapter 14:18 You still aren't qualified. As the current match on the main stage was about to end, everyone shifted their gaze to the screen hovering above the stage, excitement and joy sparkling in their eyes. The next match is going to be awesome. The Frost Empress and Flame Witch? How unfortunate. Both clearly have the strength to rank in the top 30, yet they have to face each other in the 5th round. I wonder who's strongest? Do you even need to ask? It's definitely Ilofe. After all, she is the 3rd-ranked elementalist in the Black Dragon Empire. She even ended in the top 20 during the previous competition. In the Black Dragon Empire, practically everybody knew about FFF's Frost Empress. She had soared to fame during the previous ranking competition. Her beautiful face and graceful body had made it into everyone's hearts. Although she hadn't left many battle records in the Black Dragon Empire after the competition, the battle records she had left were terrifying. In one instance, she had annihilated a dark guild by herself. In another instance, she had fought the 5th-ranked player on the Black Dragon Empire's red list, the assassin Hell Prison. To be more specific, Hell Prison had ambushed Ilofe. In the end, however, she had defeated the assassin, and he had been forced to retreat. Hell Prison had killed several second-rate guild leaders. Although he had never killed a first-rate guild's leader, he had come very close to succeeding several times. This had earned the various large guilds' hatred. However, they were powerless against the assassin expert, yet after a single failed attempt, Hell Prison had declared that he had given up targeting Ilofe. No one knew why he had done so, but the fact that Ilofe had forced an assassin like Hell Prison to give up showed how powerful she was. The assassination attempt had been a while ago. Ilofe had certainly grown stronger since then. Big Sis Rain, it seems that Zero Wing may be in trouble. Ilofe is highly talented. The Secret Pavilion has even labeled her as a monster-level genius. Based on the information we currently have, she has grasped at least 2 combat techniques. Moreover, one of them is an advanced combat technique. The Secret Pavilion has tried to recruit her, but she rejected their offer. Based on our reports, it seems that the Flower of 7 Sins has contacted her as well, Blue Phoenix whispered when she saw the combatants for the next round. If Zero Wing is defeated here and loses its bet with Crimson Castle, 9 Dragons Emperor will use the opportunity to crush Zero Wing's branch guild. The Flower of 7 Sins didn't just contact her in secret, Phoenix Rain said, smiling bitterly. The Great Pavilion Master informed us to give up on recruiting Ilofe and to avoid provoking her. She's already become one of the Flower of 7 Sins reserve upper echelons. The Flower of 7 Sins values her. What? She's already a reserve upper echelon? Blue Phoenix was shocked, staring at Ilofe below the main stage. Although the Flower of 7 Sins was a mysterious organization, the various superpowers had a certain amount of information on it. Like the Secret Pavilion, it was considered a transcendental power. None of the superpowers would dare underestimate it. The requirements to become one of the Flower of 7 Sins' upper echelons were even stricter than those to become a super guild's upper echelon. As the Flower of 7 Sins was an organization of assassins, strength meant everything. If one wished to become one of the organization's upper echelons, they needed to have the strength to back up the ambition. Every one of the Flower of 7 Sins upper echelons was an absolute monster. Now that Ilofe was a reserve upper echelon, this proved that the Flower of 7 Sins had acknowledged her strength. The organization had clearly deemed that she could become a monster-level expert as well. When the waiting participants saw the next pairing, a commotion rippled through the crowd. Luofei, it seems you've encountered a proper opponent this time, a slim assassin in dark gray leather armor said from beside the woman, smiling. A proper opponent? Iluofei glanced at Zhao Yueru, who sat a short distance away. She responded indifferently. Commander, please stop joking. She's still not worthy of being my opponent. Someone on Phoenix Rain's level might be, but not her. Well, in any case, don't take the match too seriously. Just defeat her casually. Save some cards for the rest of your opponents. Otherwise, you'll have trouble fulfilling your agreement with the Flower of 7 Sins. Yan Tianqing, the FFF Adventurer Team's commander, said as he glanced at the several cloaked players beside the stage. Commander, rest assured, I'll claim the championship and leave those upper echelons speechless. Iluofei confidently declared before walking towards the stage. When the Flower of 7 Sins had tried to recruit her, she had given the organization a condition. She required that they turn FFF into one of the top adventurer teams in God's domain, not just the Black Dragon Empire. However, a large amount of resources would be required to do so. Although the Flower of 7 Sins had agreed to her condition, the organization had offered one of its own. She must secure the championship in this ranking competition. Iloafe didn't think too much about the condition. After all, not only had the Flower of Seven Sins given her a top-tier epic staff upon her joining, but it had also sent her into 2 legacy spaces, allowing her to improve tremendously. She had even broken through to the Void Realm, pushing her 5 senses to their very limits. When Iloafe and Zhao Yueru stepped onto the stage, cheers erupted throughout the venue. Not only were they gorgeous, but they were also highly venerated experts. I've always heard that Zero Wing is a one-man guild. I never thought that it would have an expert such as you. I had planned to challenge your guild leader during my previous trip to Stone Forest Town, but I never actually met him. After this match, please convey my request to guild leader Black Flame. Tell him that I'd like to challenge him. The time and location are up to him. Iloafe spoke to Zhao Yueru softly. The Flower of Seven Sins had actually given her 2 conditions. If she completed one of them, the organization would agree to her condition, pushing FFF to the heights of God's domain. Obtaining the championship was the first condition. The second was to kill Zero Wing's guild leader Black Flame. Moreover, the second condition was available long-term. She had watched Black Flame's battle videos. While he was a monster, she was confident of defeating him. The moment Iloafe finished speaking, an uproar shook the arena. What's this? Iloafe just publicly challenged Zero Wing's guild leader? This is interesting. I wonder if Black Flame will accept the challenge? If he does, I have to watch it. As expected of the Frost Empress, she dares to challenge the Sword King. Everyone here was quite familiar with the name Black Flame. After all, he ranked among the top 100 on the God's Domain experts list. The secret pavilion had even given him the nickname Sword King. When he had received it, it had caused quite a stir throughout God's Domain. However, while the crowd cheered over the matter, Zero Wing's members wore ugly expressions. Fierce Snake and the others, who sat below the main stage, were furious. A measly vice-commander of an adventurer team had dared to issue their guild leader a challenge. Zero Wing was Star Moon Kingdom's #1 guild. Luo Ifei's blatant challenge was no different than spitting on Zero Wing's reputation. She simply wasn't taking Zero Wing seriously in the least. Ha! Nicely done. As expected of someone the Flower of Seven Sins has acknowledged. 9 Dragons Emperor laughed in his VIP room. Black Flame really is famous everywhere. Phoenix Rain muttered, sighing as she looked at Zero Wing's room. Although she did not believe that Iloafe could defeat Black Flame, this challenge humiliated Zero Wing, Star Moon Kingdom's overlord. If Iloafe defeated Zhao Yueru, the challenge would deal an even greater blow to the guild's reputation. You wish to challenge our guild leader? Zhao Yueru's gaze chilled as she glared at Iloafe. Unfortunately, you still aren't qualified. Chapter 1419 Difference in Equipment. Chapter 1419 Difference in Equipment. Chapter 1419 Difference in Equipment. As soon as Zhao Yueru finished speaking, she released Frostflame's Wrath's aura. As a fragmented legendary weapon, Frostflame's Wrath could exude a frightening pressure. Once a player equipped it, they could actively suppress this aura, making the staff look like an ordinary item. At the same time, this aura could strengthen the player's aura. With the liberation of Frostflame's Wrath's aura, Zhao Yueru's aura underwent a sudden transformation. Fire and ice-type mana surged towards her in a frenzy, causing the surrounding space to tremble. How can a player have such a powerful aura? Is she really the flame which I've heard about? Why does it seem like the space around her is darker? The participants below stage felt a powerful pressure weigh them down when Zhao Yueru released Frostflame's Wrath's aura. Some participants had even taken an unconscious step back. The waiting participants weren't the only ones surprised. The various large guilds' upper echelons in the VIP rooms were shocked as well. If a player's aura could be so powerful, ordinary players would find it taxing to endure, not to mention fighting while under the aura's pressure. Guild leader, the staff you gave to Yueru. Could it be? Although Gentle Snow suspected that Frostflame's Wrath might be a fragmented legendary weapon, she wasn't certain. After all, fragmented legendary items were simply too rare in God's domain. Even now, no one had heard of any of the superpowers obtaining one. Hence, the likelihood of Feng possessing a second fragmented legendary item should be abysmally low. That's right. It is indeed a fragmented legendary weapon. Moreover, it is a top-tier fragmented legendary staff suitable for elementalists. Feng confirmed, nodding. Gentle Snow was speechless as she processed Feng's nonchalant explanation, overwhelmed by shock. Very few people likely had a better idea of how powerful a fragmented legendary item was than her. After all, her current armor was fragmented legendary equipment. It was due to the 7 luminaries' battle armor that she could contend with peak experts. At the moment, she was only a refinement realm expert. She was worlds apart from Super Guild's peak experts, yet with the power of fragmented legendary equipment, she compensated for the difference in their combat standards. Meanwhile, the fragmented legendary item Zhao Yueru wielded was a weapon, the item that provided the largest boost to a player's combat power. Only now did Gentle Snow understand why Feng had agreed to Crimson Fox's bet without hesitation, and why he had remained so calm throughout the competition. If peak experts from super guilds participated in this ranking competition, it'd be no different than adults bullying children. Thus, the various superpowers only sent in their newbies that they had nurtured internally. Otherwise, all the players from the various large guilds and adventurer teams would be able to do little more than watch from the sidelines. Meanwhile, although the match had begun on the main stage, either side hurried to attack. Rather than the expected indifference, surprise colored Ilofei's face. She had never expected to feel such an intense pressure from a refinement realm expert like Zhao Yueru. This was the first time something like this had ever happened. I've really underestimated Zero Wing, to think the guild had hidden an expert like you, Ilofei commented seriously as she watched her opponent. After getting a good look, however, Ilofei smirked as she continued. However, you can only rely on this empty aura. It might be effective against ordinary experts, but it is useless against me. Saying so, Ilofei activated her berserk skill. She then began to chant incantations as she wrote runes in the air. Ilofei's chanting speed was extremely quick. She wasn't slower than Zhao Yueru in the least. Moreover, compared to Zhao Yueru's chants, Ilofei's pronunciation was more accurate. Furthermore, not only did she draw her runes as easily as a graffiti artist, but she also had no inconsistencies. What precise triple speed casting! Blue Phoenix was shocked as she watched the terrifying amount of mana gather around Ilofei. Unlike skills, spells had additional variables known as incantations and runes. Meanwhile, due to these two aspects' special characteristics, one could determine the spell's completion rate based on the amount of mana that gathered around the caster even before the spell fully activated. The fact that more mana gathered around Ilofei despite both combatants' triple speed casting proved that her skill completion rate was higher. Naturally, her spells would be more powerful. Not one to be outdone, Zhao Yueru had activated Power of Darkness at almost the same time as Ilofei activated her berserk skill, increasing all her basic attributes by 100%. Similarly, Zhao Yueru followed up with triple speed casting. A moment later, both elementalists completed their spells. Waving their staffs simultaneously, they gestured to their opponents. 3 magic arrays suddenly formed behind both elementalists. Normally, Zhao Yueru was limited to double speed casting. She could only triple speed cast due to Frostflame's wrath. However, she was limited to the most basic Tier 0 spells for her third cast. This time, she had chosen Flame Barrage. As for her other 2 spells, she went with the Tier 1 Flame Spear and Tier 1 Flame Chains. The former possessed extreme destructive power, while the latter had a certain degree of destructive power while allowing her to restrict her enemy. On the other hand, Ilofei, who had relied on her own abilities to triple speed cast, had chosen Tier 1 spells for all 3 casts: Frozen Web, Frost Prison, and Ice Blast. Despite both being elementalists, one woman controlled fire, and the other manipulated ice, creating a dazzling scene on the stage. Although you're very strong, it's a pity that your skill completion rates are too low. Your triple speed casting is a mere facade compared to the real deal. Ilofei smiled calmly as she watched Zhao Yueru's flames. She then controlled her ice-type spells to meet Zhao Yueru's spells. Unlike melee players, a clash between magical class players did not rely on one's control of their body. Rather, it relied on one's control over an external object. Many of God's domain's spells were ranged. If a magical class player lacked control of their spell, it would be very difficult to hit a moving target. When fire and ice collided, a series of explosions erupted across the stage. Half of the stage transformed into a flaming hell, while the other half had become an icy nightmare. The results were extraordinarily spectacular. However, when their spells clashed, Ilofe, who had been confident of her victory, revealed a grim expression. She currently wore 2 pieces of epic equipment, a shirt and a pair of shoes. Her staff was also epic rank, increasing her completion rate with ice-type spells to a certain degree. She could almost achieve an 80% completion rate with all 3 of her spells. No matter how she looked at it, Zhao Yueru's completion rates shouldn't exceed 70%, yet when she pitted her spells against her opponents, her spells were crushed, and Zhao Yueru's spells maintained a significant amount of their power as they continued towards her. This outcome was simply inconceivable. What Ilofe didn't know was that Frostflame's Wrath improved ice and fire-type spells by 1 tier. Although Zhao Yueru had used Tier 1 and Tier 0 spells, they instantly became Tier 2 and Tier 1 spells with Frostflame's Wrath's buff. Even if her skill completion rates were no more than 70%, Tier 2 spells far surpassed Tier 1 spells with 80% completion rates. Facing the incoming flames, Ilofe had no choice but to dodge them with Blink. After all, magical class players weren't like melee players. Their attribute point allocation was different. Dodging multiple attacks at once was very difficult for magical class players. Following which, Ilofe ran around the stage, becoming a more difficult target for her opponent. Unfortunately, this meant that she couldn't triple speedcast. She could only rely on double speedcasting. In contrast, Zhao Yueru could stand still and attack Ilofe freely. Occasionally, she was forced to dodge an unavoidable spell with Blink, but otherwise, she could easily triple speedcast. Very quickly Ilofe found herself running on fumes, finding fewer opportunities to retaliate. At the same time, Zhao Yueru shaved away her HP with her spell's residual damage. After 15 seconds, Ilofe's HP fell to 50%. On the other hand, Zhao Yueru, who had only occasionally failed to dodge an attack, still had over 90% of her HP. The difference between these fighters was obviously at a glance. I'll admit that your combat standards are higher than mine. Unfortunately, if you can't defeat me despite that advantage, how are you qualified to fight my guild leader? Zhao Yueru quipped as she stopped her attack suddenly. Seeing Ilofe's sorry state, she smiled as she continued. I've grown bored of exchanging spells with you, and I believe that my guild leader has grown impatient with our fight. How about we end this match now? Saying so, Zhao Yueru lightly tapped the butt of Frostflame's Wrath on the ground. Immediately, a blue and red dual-colored magic array formed on the ground as an astonishing amount of mana surged towards it. Following which, a 4-meter-tall cheetah emerged from the magic array. Crimson fire covered the cheetah's head, paws, and tail, while a frosty mist radiated from its body. This cheetah was none other than the Frostflame cheetah summoned by Frostflame's Wrath's third activatable skill. Chapter 1420 Overwhelming Power. Chapter 1420 Overwhelming Power. Chapter 1420 Overwhelming Power. The tall and mighty Frostflame cheetah's appearance stupefied everyone in the arena. What? Aren't magic scrolls banned? How did she summon such a powerful monster? That's not right. The system should have imposed the correct restrictions on the stage. She must have summoned the monster with an item skill. Crap! Even an Elementalist can summon such a powerful monster? How is this supposed to be a fair fight? The Mount Frostflame's Wrath summoned was 1 tier higher than the player that summoned it. Since Zhao Yueru was a tier 1 player, the Frostflame cheetah she had summoned was a tier 2 lord. Normally, soloing a lord-ranked monster of the same level wasn't a problem for peak experts like Ilofe, but if one summoned a lord-ranked monster during a one-on-one PvP battle, their opponent would be at an overwhelming disadvantage if they couldn't do the same. Furthermore, Zhao Yueru had already proven that she had an advantage over Iluofei. Now that she had gone a step further and summoned the Frost Flame Cheetah, Iluofei's chances of winning were non-existent. However, Iluofei had no intentions of giving up just yet. She immediately responded by casting the Tier 1 curse, Extreme Frost Waterfall, and the Tier 1 spell, Frost Barrier. Walls of solid ice began to form around Zhao Yueru, trapping her within. Meanwhile, a massive, blue magic array appeared above her, gusts of cold air blasting down from the array. Zhao Yueru didn't attempt to dodge the incoming cold air. Instead, she waved Frost Flame's Wrath and used the Tier 1 spell, Flame Dragon's Dance. Immediately, a crimson magic array formed beneath Zhao Yueru's feet. 2 serpentine dragons of fire then emerged, intertwining as they flew to meet the frost gusts of air. Boom! 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 When ice and fire tangled, white mist filled the space above Zhao Yueru. Not only did Flame Dragon's Dance crush Iluofei's extreme frost waterfall, but the high temperature also melted the ice walls trapping Zhao Yueru. In the end, Iluofei's spells failed to deal even a single point of damage. Even a Tier 1 curse is useless? Iluofei was dazed for a brief moment after watching her extreme frost waterfall fail. A Tier 1 curse rivaled Tier 2 spells. Such a spell could even injure Lord-ranked monsters, yet such a powerful attack had been utterly useless against Zhao Yueru's Tier 1 spell. The various guilds' upper echelons in their VIP rooms were stunned. A Tier 1 spell crushed a Tier 1 curse? Just how wide is the attribute gap between these two? Blue Phoenix stared at Zhao Yueru incredulously. There was only one possible explanation. The gap between the women's attributes was just massive, enough to make up for the difference in tiers. Yet, based on the reports, Iluofei should have at least 3 epic items on her. With her high level, the woman's basic attributes should be near the peak of God's domain. Even if some players had higher attributes, there should be a limit to how high those attributes could go. After all, epic items were not cabbages that could be purchased at the local market. Sure enough, weapons provide a higher buff than a piece of equipment. Gentle Snow could not help but sigh as she watched her friend's incredible performance. If it were up to her, she'd have a difficult time defeating Iluofei without activating 2 full Berserk, yet Zhao Yueru easily triumphed despite having a single Berserk skill. Of course, the fact that both women were Elementalists was part of the reason. When both combatants were of the same class, the difference between their strength depended on the individual's combat standards, attributes, and skills. However, the main reason for such a gap was the massive difference between their equipment quality. Moreover, Zhao Yueru currently had 3 epic items on her. Among the players in this ranking competition, one could count the number who had 3 epic items on one hand. Hence, Iluofei's defeat was natural. As everyone recovered from their shock of seeing Zhao Yueru's attack, the Zero-Wing representative commanded her Frost Flame Cheetah to pounce on Iluofei. Although the Frost Flame Cheetah was only a Lord-ranked monster, it still posed a significant threat to Tier 1 experts. This was especially true for magical classes, who were not fond of speed-type monsters. Iluofei was forced to turn her spells against the Frost Flame Cheetah while keeping an eye on Zhao Yueru's movements. Seeing the cheetah distract Iluofei, Zhao Yueru revealed a smile and waved Frost Flame's Wrath before pointing it to the sky. A large magic array then covered over half of the stage as it manifested above the fighters. The waiting participants gasped. Despite being below the stage and knowing that they were safe from the current battle, the participants felt the threat of death loom over them. Even a fool could tell that Zhao Yueru had cast a large-scale destruction spell. Die! Zhao Yueru abruptly swung down her staff. Immediately, the entire stage trembled as the area's ice and fire-type mana went berserk. This move was none other than Frost Flame Hell, one of Frost Flame's Wrath's activatable skills. When activated, it dealt a combination of ice and fire-type damage to all enemies within a 50-yard radius every second for 10 seconds. With the Frost Flame Cheetah keeping her busy, Iluofei had no hope of escaping the AoE in time. Noticing the wave of fire and cold air surge towards her, Iluofei activated Frost Barrier, becoming invulnerable to all attacks for a short time. However, despite having upgraded the spell to Tier 1, it would only last for 8 seconds. She was simply delaying the inevitable. The seconds ticked by quickly. When the 8 seconds were finally up, the frost barrier shattered, and the rampaging ice and fire-type mana killed Ilofe instantly. As Frost Flame Hell dissipated, the spectators could see how miserable a large portion of the stage looked. Silence filled the waiting area below the stage. Although the system had announced the victor, none of the waiting participants cheered. Watching this match had inspired a deep despair in every one of them. They all thought that Zhao Yueru had simply been too cruel. First, Zhao Yueru had summoned a Tier 2 Lord to distract her opponent. Then she used a large-scale destruction spell to end the match. Even with a skill that provided invulnerability, Zhao Yueru's spell would eliminate any opponent unless their life-saving skill lasted for more than 10 seconds. As for closing in on Zhao Yueru and facing her in close quarters, such a strategy would be suicidal with the woman's ability to triple speedcast. The closer one was to the spellcaster, the harder spells were to dodge. Players would also have to deal with a Lord-ranked monster harassing them. Who could possibly beat Zhao Yueru in a one-on-one? Her power was overwhelming. To deal with someone like Zhao Yueru, one would need an ally or the ability to summon a powerful monster with their weapons or equipment. Otherwise, the woman was nearly invincible. She lost? Yan Tianqing could not help his bitter smile as he watched Zhao Yueru on the stage. He had never imagined that a monster like Zhao Yueru occupied the Black Dragon Empire. When she got serious, she could even render a peak expert like Ilofe utterly powerless. When Ilofe resurrected below the stage, her gaze shifted to her previous opponent. Her declaration to challenge Black Flame was nothing more than a joke now. She still found it hard to believe that she had been defeated so easily. Now, she more or less understood why the Flower of Seven Sins' second condition was long-term. She had assumed that the second condition would be easier to fulfill than the first, but looking at it now, it was obvious that the second condition was, by far, the more challenging. In the Flower of Seven Sins' opinion, she wouldn't be capable of defeating Black Flame for some time. Hence, the organization had set this condition. Chapter 1421 Dragon's Graveyard. Chapter 1421 Dragon's Graveyard. As Zhao Yueru descended from the stage, the waiting participants instinctively stepped aside, opening a path for her. They had heard that she had killed a dark player twice after some dark guild had provoked her, dealing a heavy blow to the guild. While experts like themselves had assumed that had been a joke, they'd have to rein in their courage to stop trembling if Zhao Yueru even glanced their way. They had to be careful around her. Should they accidentally annoy the woman, they might die the moment they left the city. The Flame Witch is too awesome. She might even secure one of the top 10 spots. Top 10? More like top 5. The combination of that Lord-ranked monster and the large-scale destruction spell is invincible in a duel. Only a handful of participants may be able to close in on the Flame Witch before she activates the combination attack. Aside from those few, she can likely blast everyone to smithereens. The Frost Empress was pretty unlucky this time. If she hadn't come across the Flame Witch, she might have ranked among the top 15, yet now she won't even stand among the top 50. With the Flame Witch on Zero Wing's side, Zero Wing should get a spot among the top 5 guild rankings. Unlike the participants below the stage, the audience in the stands fell into a heated discussion about Zhao Yueru. They were all curious to see what the woman's rank would be in this competition. As for Ilofe, who had been defeated, they couldn't help but lament for her misfortune. Damn it! Why did things end up like this? Crimson Fox cursed as he watched Zhao Yueru step down from the main stage. To think they've hidden a trump card like Zhao Yueru all this time. Zero Wing is quite cunning. Guild leader, what should we do now? Lonely Castle, the shield warrior beside Crimson Fox, asked anxiously. The higher one ranked in the competition, the more points they would receive. Moreover, the point scale was steep. Players that ranked between 1000th and 501st would receive 5 points. Players' points would double if they ranked between 500th and 249th, increasing to 10 points. Meanwhile, players that made it to the third round would be awarded 20 points, 50 points if they reached the fourth round, and 100 points for the fifth round. Although both experts Nine Dragons Emperor had sent to assist Crimson Castle had made it to the fifth round, Nine Dragons Emperor had stated that the two players would be lucky to make it into the top 16, the seventh round. Reaching the seventh round only awarded 300 points, yet if Zhao Yueru ranked among the top 4 players, she would receive 600 points. Her points alone were more than the total those two experts could earn. If Zhao Yueru were lucky and made it into the finals, she would be awarded 1,000 points. She could earn more points than Crimson Castle's 5 representatives together. For now, hand the epic items Nine Dragons Emperor loaned us to those two experts. Our priority is to ensure that both reach the 7th round. As for Zero Wing, it is still unknown whether or not Zhao Yueru makes it to the semi-finals. If she encounters one of those few melee experts, she could lose. If she faces Yan Tianqing, her success will immediately come to a halt. Crimson Fox said as he glanced at Yan Tianqing, FFF's commander. Before Eluofei had risen to prominence, the FFF adventurer team had stood at the top in the Black Dragon Empire due to Yan Tianqing. Even before God's Domain launched, Yan Tianqing had been a famous peak expert in the virtual gaming world for many years. Now, he was the number 2 assassin in the Black Dragon Empire. Hell Prison, who had attempted to assassinate Eluofei, only ranked 4th on the Black Dragon Empire's assassin ranking list. Hell Prison alone was capable of rendering the Empire's various large guilds helpless. Meanwhile, Yan Tianqing was even more powerful than the assassin. Hence, the Empire's guilds feared and respected the FFF adventurer team. Understood. Lonely Castle saw the reasoning in Crimson Fox's words. Although it was possible that Zhao Yueru could rank among the top 5, it was only a possibility. If she were unlucky, she might encounter an expert that could counter her combat method in the next round and eliminate her. Unfortunately, while Crimson Fox's hope was nice, the reality was far from it. As the competition progressed, Zhao Yueru secured impressive victories during her 6th and 7th matches, making her way into the quarterfinals. She was only 1 round away from ranking among the top 4 competitors. In contrast, Crimson Castle's progress halted in the 7th round. In the end, the guild only racked up 630 points. With that score, Crimson Castle could easily rank among the Black Dragon Empire's top 10 guilds. To Crimson Castle, it was a result worth celebrating. However, Crimson Fox, Crimson Castle's guild leader, felt no joy. After all, as long as Zhao Yueru won her next match, Crimson Castle's fate in Hidden Fog Town would meet its end. If Crimson Castle couldn't take control of Hidden Fog Town, the threat it posed to Zero Wing would decrease drastically. If that happened, Nine Dragons Emperor would turn away from the guild. Without Nine Dragons Emperor's support, Crimson Castle's dream of becoming a first-rate guild would remain a dream. After all, Crimson Castle was relatively weak among the second-rate guilds. A titan like the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion only offered support due to its threat to Zero Wing. Please don't let her pass. Crimson Fox silently prayed as he watched the screen above the stage. At the end of each round, the system would randomly generate pairings for the new fight. Seeing the player IDs flicker on the virtual screen, Crimson Fox's heart began to pound. Once the quarterfinals pairings were determined, he was ecstatic. Wonderful! The heavens haven't forsaken Crimson Castle! Crimson Fox was overjoyed when he saw that the first match was a fight between Zhao Yueru and Yan Tianqing. As long as Crimson Castle won its bet with Zero Wing, its status as a first-rate guild was guaranteed. A first-rate guild. Countless guilds dreamed of achieving such glory. The Flame Witch is in danger now. Yan Tianqing ranks 2nd among assassins and is known for his speed. The Flame Witch won't be able to execute her combination attacks so easily against him. Even if the Flame Witch loses, she'll have nothing to be ashamed of. After all, she has a class disadvantage. But Yan Tianqing's win isn't certain. It isn't so easy to close in on an Elementalist who can triple casting. If his timing isn't right when he closes in on the Flame Witch, he might die instantly. The Flame Witch's damage is no laughing matter. She even instant-killed a shield warrior with full HP and shield wall active. Killing a glass cannon like Yan Tianxing would be a piece of cake for her. Everyone cheered and chatted as they watched Zhao Yueru and Yan Tianxing approach to the main stage. As the timer above the main stage began to count down, Yan Tianxing turned towards Zero Wing's VIP room and announced, "Guild leader Black Flame, this humble man has heard that your guild intends to auction adventure houses in Stone Forest Town. If I win this match, would you allocate a slot for the FFF Adventurer team? Of course, if I lose, I will hand over 10,000 magic crystals and a treasure map for the dragon's graveyard." When Yan Tianxing finished speaking, the venue fell silent, dumbfounded by his bet. Everyone's first reaction was to question his intentions. Shouldn't he be trying to avenge Yi Luofei? Shouldn't he have made some valiant remark about defeating Zhao Yueru? Yet, the FFF's commander, one of the Black Dragon Empire's famous top adventurer teams, had just publicly declared his intention of garrisoning in Stone Forest Town. Garrisoning in Stone Forest Town wouldn't have been overly surprising. A top adventurer team occupying a guild town was always good news for the guild, yet based on Yan Tianxing's request, it seemed as if the right to garrison in Stone Forest Town was extremely precious. He had even bet 10,000 magic crystals and a treasure map for the right. The treasure map he had gambled was even related to the dragon's graveyard. This was just ludicrous. Chapter 1422 Forbidden Lands Treasure. Chapter 1422 Forbidden Lands Treasure. Chapter 1422 Forbidden Lands Treasure. What's going on? Has Yan Tianxing lost his mind? If I recall correctly, Stone Forest Town has a relatively effective battle arena. Some of the top-ranking participants in the previous competition had gone there as well. But what's so good about the town? Does he really have to go this far? Isn't it just a guild town? FFF is one of the top 5 adventurer teams in our empire. Even first-rate guilds would beg FFF to occupy their towns. I'm pretty sure FFF can gain access to Stone Forest Town just by asking. What? Don't you know? Many experts are trying to train in Stone Forest Town's battle arena. I've heard that the advanced combat rooms are super amazing. They can create a perfect replica of the player that enters the room. The replica can even execute all of the player's skills and spells at 100% completion rate. Those rooms are more effective than fighting an expert of the same caliber. That's right. Fire Cloud, Fox's Remnant Cloud, and Graceful Moon visited Stone Forest Town's battle arena and used the advanced combat rooms multiple times. Both managed to rank among the top 500 in this competition. Their performance was significantly more impressive than last time. Remnant Cloud's combat power has improved so much that he even beat his old rivals. Stone Forest Town doesn't only have its battle arena. It also has an advanced auction house with a built-in bartering function. Due to the battle arena and the advanced auction house, Stone Forest Town has become Star Moon Kingdom's undisputed #1 guild town. I've heard about that too. Many top and well-known adventurer teams in Star Moon Kingdom and several neighboring kingdoms are trying to garrison in Stone Forest Town. Unfortunately, Zero Wing only plans to open 5 adventurer houses to the public. The various adventurer teams are frantically collecting funds. When the time comes, the competition for those adventurer houses will be intense. Though, it is surprising that even an adventurer team like FFF is interested in the town. For a time, many people, both in and outside of the arena, discussed Zero Wing's Stone Forest Town. Many of the Empire's players began to gain some understanding of the guild town. When the advanced combat rooms, in particular, came up in conversation, many expert players' eyes shone with excitement. Players were more interested in improving their skill completion rates than fighting experts of the same caliber. Most layers of their standards plateaued around 80% skill completion rates. Only after achieving an 85% skill completion rate could they truly exert 100% of their skill's power and effects. Now that they knew they had an opportunity to improve their skill completion rates, why would they ignore it? While the players in the spectator stands discussed Stone Forest Town, the various guilds' upper echelons in the VIP rooms glared at Yan Tianxing. Has Yan Tianxing lost his mind? He's using the dragon's graveyard's treasure map as a wager. Doesn't he know what the dragon's graveyard is? When the upper echelons heard the proposed bet, their eyes became bloodshot with anger. While the majority of the Black Dragon Empire's guilds didn't know about the dragon's graveyard, first and second-rate guilds such as theirs had investigated the area. Naturally, they had some understanding of the treasure map. One of the reasons for the Black Dragon Empire's names was the dragon's graveyard within its territory. According to legend, the dragon's graveyard had been home to the Black Dragon tribe. However, for some unknown reason, that location had become a dragon graveyard. Dragons were known for their love of treasure. Needless to say, dragons' habitats would contain unimaginable treasures. Although the Black Dragon Empire had embarked on several expeditions into the dragon's graveyard, the Empire had eventually given up on the map and labeled it a forbidden land due to the severe losses it suffered during such expeditions. If one had a treasure map for the area, they could gain frightening wealth. To solidify this assumption, their guilds had secured an astonishing bounty after exploring the dragon's graveyard's outer region. Upon reaching level 50, drop rates for monsters decreased drastically. The quality of dropped weapons and equipment also decreased. When killing level 50 Great Lords, players generally only obtained a single piece of level 50 mysterious iron equipment. However, it was a different story in the dragon's graveyard as its level 50 Great Lords dropped level 50 secret silver equipment. Meanwhile, a treasure map was akin to a treasure chest, but unlike treasure chests, players had to hunt down their prize after obtaining the map. Fortunately, the extra step meant greater rewards. Treasure maps weren't differentiated by rank either. Rather, the value of a treasure map was based on the danger of its location. As a forbidden land, the dragon's graveyard's treasure map would likely lead to more than one epic item. Why wouldn't they be jealous? The only problem was the graveyard's severe environment. Upon entering the map, players' combat power would fall below 10%. Players would also find it difficult to activate Tier 1 skills and spells. Generally, they were limited to Tier 0 abilities. Players had to pay a hefty price to deal with a level 50 Great Lord. Furthermore, Great Lord ranked monsters were common in the dragon's graveyard. There were also quite a few Grand Lords. Commander? Ilofe, who watched from below the main stage, stared at Yen Tianqing with confusion. Did you really have to expose that item just for an adventurer house? The FFF adventurer team had been on many adventures. It had uncovered many opportunities as well. Among the various opportunities, the greatest had been their acquisition of an epic ranked item called the True Orb from an ancient ruin. With this orb, Yen Tianqing even had a high chance of defeating the Black Dragon Empire's #1 assassin. They had obtained the dragon's graveyard's treasure map from a dark gold treasure chest in the same ruin. One could just imagine how valuable it was. Ilofe couldn't understand Yen Tianqing's decision. Even if their adventurer team wanted to occupy Stone Forest Town, they could compete for the opportunity in the auction. With the FFF adventurer team's financial strength, they were likely to win a slot. This gamble was just unnecessary. Guild leader, the Dragon's Graveyard is a super large-scale map in the Black Dragon Empire with extremely abundant resources. The treasures in the area are extraordinary. However, due to the harsh environment, most large guilds have struggled to pioneer the map. Gentle Snow explained. Yen Tianqing is quite generous. Feng could not help but laugh. He must know that the competition for the garrison slots is going to be intense. But by using the treasure map as bait to convince me to agree to the bet, isn't he worried about losing it? Naturally, no one in God's domain understood the dragon's graveyard better than him. According to his memories, there were a total of 3 treasure maps for the dragon's graveyard, which corresponded to the outer region, the inner region, and the map's core, respectively. Meanwhile, the treasures in each of these areas were better than the last. The wealth one could gain in the outer region was the equivalent of several dark gold treasure chests. It was rumored that the items one could find in the inner region were the equivalent of 2 or 3 epic treasure chests. As for the core, the treasures there were the equivalent of 1 or 2 inferior legendary treasure chests. Although Feng had no idea of which treasure map Yen Tianqing possessed, the items in the outer region were already hard to come by, much less those in the inner and core regions. Since he wants to gamble, I have no reason to reject his offer. Feng then contacted Zhao Yueru and ordered, "Agree to the bet." "Understood." Zhao Yueru nodded. "This match is very important. You don't need to hold back," Feng added. "Can I really use that move?" Zhao Yueru was confused. However, a hint of anticipation flashed in her eyes. Before the competition had begun, Feng had forbidden her from using all of her strength in battle. His reasoning was very simple. Every additional trump card she had was an advantage. Their priorities in this competition were to defeat Crimson Castle and earn enough points to rank among the top 3 guilds in the Black Dragon Empire. "Yes. He is very strong. If you hold back, you might lose," Feng confirmed. Hearing that she could go all out, Zhao Yueru's eyes sparkled with excitement as she shifted her gaze towards Yan Tianqing. "My guild leader has agreed to your conditions so long as you don't regret making them later on," Zhao Yueru said, smiling. "I have never gone back on my word before. Besides, I made the bet in front of so many people," Yan Tianqing responded, smiling. "Since we have an agreement, let us begin." Saying so, Yan Tianqing activated his berserk skill and vanished as if he had never existed in the first place. Chapter 1423 Flame Witch. Chapter 1423 Flame Witch. Chapter 1423 Flame Witch. The instant Yan Tianqing activated stealth and disappeared, Zhao Yueru summoned the Lord-rank Frost Flame Cheetah beside her. She then proceeded to double speed cast. Tier 1 spell, Flame Orb. Tier 1 spell, Flame Rain. Both spells were AoE attacks, and among the best Zhao Yueru had to locate a stealth assassin. As long as a player could reveal an assassin, the stealth player's combat power would decrease by half. An assassin's most powerful advantage was its assassination capabilities. The first strike was particularly powerful. In a confrontation, however, they were even weaker than berserkers and swordsmen. In the blink of an eye, a sea of fire swept across Yan Tianqing's previous location. But even after the 2 spells decimated the stage, the assassin was nowhere to be seen. The flame which reacted so quickly, but she still couldn't expose Yan Tianqing. How fast is he? As expected of the second-ranked assassin in the Empire. His concealment technique is amazing. Despite seeing him the moment he disappeared, I still can't lock onto his aura. I even activated Enhanced 5 Senses, yet I can't detect him either. The participants below the stage were shocked as they watched the sea of fire engulf the stage. By the time the match began, Zhao Yueru had already begun casting her spells. There had only been a 2-second delay before her attack struck Yan Tianqing's starting location, yet neither AoE had revealed the assassin. What shocked these players even more was the man's concealment technique. The magic barrier around the main stage contained attacks within. Meanwhile, observation and perception skills wouldn't be affected. Despite the waiting participants activating their perception skills, no one could detect Yan Tianqing. This was the first time they had encountered such a situation. These skills' specific purpose was to counter the stealth skill. Zhao Yueru had also activated her own perception skill, which allowed her to detect all stealth players within a 40-yard radius. Generally, if magical class player allowed a stealth assassin to ambush them, they'd die instantly. Only plate armor classes with high HP and defense could survive an assassin's first barrage. She could not allow her opponent to close in. A futile struggle. Ilofe, who stood below the stage, smiled as she watched Zhao Yueru. The true orb Yan Tianqing had obtained improved assassin's strength tremendously. The commander wouldn't have challenged Shadowlight, the #1 assassin in the Black Dragon Empire, without it. Not even the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion could do anything against that man. Meanwhile, one of the true orb's effects increased stealth-related skills by 100%. This halved the effectiveness of other players' perception-related skills. As a result, perception skills with a 40-yard range would only detect Yan Tianqing when he was within 20 yards. Although the difference was only 20 yards, it could determine whether or not a player died. Within that range, assassins could use shadow steps, appearing directly behind a player. Yan Tianxiang quietly circled to 25 yards behind Zhao Yueru, but he didn't rush in to attack. Although shadow steps allowed him to appear behind Zhao Yueru instantly, Zhao Yueru was an elementalist. If she reacted quickly enough, she could use an invulnerability skill or blink to escape. He needed to find her blind spot, leaving her no opportunity to defend herself. However, Zhao Yueru was no greenhorn. Every player had weak points and blind spots, and it was especially true for their backs. Hence, Zhao Yueru had stationed the Frost Flame Cheetah behind her. Not only would this hinder Yan Tianxing's vision and boost her defense, but she could also launch a powerful counterattack on the off chance Yan Tianxing attacked or stunned her. For a time, all anyone could see was Zhao Yueru standing in the center of the stage with the Frost Flame Cheetah watching her back as she launched one Tier 0 spell after another. Meanwhile, Yan Tianxing continued to circle his opponent, searching for an opportunity to strike. After nearly 3 minutes, Yan Tianxing could not help but admire Zhao Yueru's tenacity. The Elementalist left him no openings. The Frost Flame Cheetah, in particular, posed a huge problem. It seems that I'll have to use that move. Yan Tianxing smiled bitterly as he examined Zhao Yueru's impeccable defense. Suddenly, Yan Tianxing split into 2 identical copies with the same attributes. The 2 clones were impossible to differentiate. Both copies remained stealth. This move was one of the True Orb skills, True Phantom. It allowed the user to summon a doppelganger that had 100% of the player's attributes, and every skill the user had learned. The skill had a 3-minute duration. If either the doppelganger or the main body survived the duration, the user would as well. When Yan Tianxing had activated True Phantom, Zhao Yueru had ceased her bombardment. Taking a deep breath, she examined her surroundings. "Since you don't want to come out, I'll force you to." Zhao Yueru waved Frostflame's wrath. With Zhao Yueru as the center, a translucent barrier ballooned outward. In the blink of an eye, the barrier enveloped a radius of 100 yards, half of the stage. This was Frostflame's Wrath's second active skill, Frost Flame Space. When activated, its effects would resemble that of a domain. Yan Tianxing immediately felt his attributes decrease. In the blink of an eye, he only had 70% of his total attributes remaining. In contrast, Zhao Yueru's aura had grown significantly more powerful. What? Ilofei stared at his enemy in shock. Suddenly, 2 more Zhao Yuerus appeared on the stage. One of them wore flaming red robes, while the other was clad in icy blue. These 2 doppelgangers possessed 100% of the caster's attributes, and both radiated a terrifying aura of their own. Die! Yan Tianxing quickly realized how severe his situation was. If Zhao Yueru and her 2 doppelgangers bombarded the stage randomly, they would find him. Immediately, Yan Tianxing responded with shadow steps, appearing behind Zhao Yueru's real body. He thrust his silver daggers towards the woman's head and back. His actions were utterly silent and without a hint of killing intent. So fast. Despite her 5 senses pushed to their limits, the flame which only noticed that she was under attack after the assassin's daggers were moving. However, when Yan Tianxing's daggers were only an inch away from reaching Zhao Yueru, the latter vanished and reappeared 15 yards away. Close 1. Zhao Yueru breathed a sigh of relief as she saw Yan Tianxing, whose figure had finally appeared. If not for this being a match and her heightened senses, she would have fallen prey to the man's daggers. However, as soon as relaxed her guard a little, another Yan Tianxing appeared behind her. Tier 1 Taboo's skill, Hidden Blade. The Yan Tianxing vanished again before immediately reappearing before the Elementalist. Before Zhao Yueru could react, 6 black shadows flew towards Zhao Yueru's heart, each attack dealing over -30,000 damage. The woman's HP instantly plummeted to 0. What? Everyone in the arena was dumbfounded when they saw Zhao Yueru hit the ground. Who could possibly avoid such an attack? Despite everyone's belief that the match was over, the bell never signified its end. Unexpectedly, Zhao Yueru's doppelganger smiled from beside her real body. Both responded by waving their staffs. Chapter 1424 Cataclysmic Spell. Chapter 1424 Cataclysmic Spell. Chapter 1424 Cataclysmic Spell. She's not dead? This is a lie, right? Didn't he kill her main body? When the two Zhaoyurus raised their staffs on the stage, the audience looked as if they had seen a ghost. When they saw the clone's smiles, chills crawled down their backs, and they couldn't help the thought that she really was a witch. God's domain had many doppelganger skills to offer, but they had never heard of one that allowed the doppelgangers to continue moving after the main body had died. Impossible! Could she also? Elophase stared at the Elementalist clones in red and blue in shock. The situation had also caught Yen Tianqing off guard. Two magic arrays appeared behind each of the two Zhaoyurus, and immediately, the ice and fire-type mana on the stage went berserk as it formed a tornado of frost and flame. Like a whale inhaling water, the four magic arrays devoured the mana. Four walls of ice trapped the assassin clone that had killed Zhaoyuru's original body. At the same time, flames emerged from the ground and swept down from the sky, completing Yen Tianqing's confinement. Without warning, the frost flame cheetah pounced on the other Yen Tianqing. Since the man had already left stealth, his combat power had decreased by half. Although the frost flame cheetah couldn't kill Yen Tianqing, it was more than enough to distract him for a moment. Realizing the danger he was in, Yen Tianqing hurriedly controlled his copy within the walls of ice and used wind steps, taking advantage of the brief invulnerability effect the skill provided to block Zhaoyuru's fire spell. He then used Shadow Assault on an ice wall in an attempt to break free from the frost barrier. Yet, before his two daggers could reach the frost barrier, an ice wall appeared and blocked his weapon's advance. When his daggers struck on the ice wall, they merely cracked it. They did not shatter the barrier. If he wanted to shatter the ice wall, he would need to attack again. Although Ice Wall was only a Tier 0 spell, it was as strong as a Tier 1 spell due to Frostflame's Wrath's buff. Ordinary players couldn't even shatter a Tier 0 ice wall easily, much less a Tier 1 ice wall. Although Yen Tianqing was a peak expert, at the end of the day, the assassin class didn't specialize in strength. If he were a peak berserker expert, however, he might have a chance of shattering a Tier 1 ice wall with a single attack. After Windstep's brief invulnerability ended, Yen Tianqing reluctantly activated Vanish before shattering the ice wall before him. But Zhaoyuru had no intention of letting the man escape. Without chance or runes, she cast another ice wall to block Yen Tianqing's path. Vanish only provided 1 second of invulnerability. When that second ended, the flame-type Zhaoyuru threw 2 Tier 1 fire spells into the frost barrier. Without any invulnerability skills left, and his shadow steps still on cooldown, Yen Tianqing had nothing left to counter the incoming fire spells. In addition, the Flame Witch's 2 spells were AoEs and impossible to block with his weapons. As a result, the 2 flame spells, enhanced by Frostflame's Wrath to Tier 2 spells, killed the Yen Tianqing in the frost barrier instantly. Now, only the Yen Tianqing the frost flame cheetah had pinned down remained. What a brutish way to fight! Crap! Wouldn't this be considered quadruple casting? The Flame Witch is invincible! The way Zhaoyuru fought stunned the audience. Her 2 doppelgangers could actually double cast. It wasn't much different than if she had cast 4 spells simultaneously. Moreover, all 4 spells were under her full control. To make matters worse, all 4 spells were overwhelmingly powerful. A doppelganger? Zhaoyuru muttered as she watched the Yen Tianqing in the frost barrier disappear before turning to the assassin retreating from her. Revealing a smile, she muttered, "Do you think you're safe just because you put some distance between us?" Immediately, Zhaoyuru's ice and fire-type doppelgangers began to double-cast again. With Yuan Tianqing's speed, he'd be difficult to trap with frost barrier again. Hence, Zhaoyuru didn't use the same approach. Instead, she switched to Tier 1 spells that focused on crowds. In the next moment, over 70 fire arrows, fireballs, ice spears, and ice arrows formed behind the doppelgangers. These spells then flew towards their target. Everyone fell silent as they watched the ice and fire-type spells fill the sky. Moreover, Zhaoyuru's control over these spells was exceptionally precise. Despite Yen Tianqing moving so quickly that he left behind afterimages, most of the Elementalist's spells struck the assassin. As a result, Yan Tianqing was forced to block the incoming attacks with his weapons and had no choice but to use wind steps to defend himself. However, while Yan Tianqing's speed was astonishing to ordinary players, to Zhao Yueru, whose physique had improved by 50% thanks to Frost Flame Space, Yan Tianqing wasn't particularly fast. At best, he was only as fast as an ordinary expert. She had no issues landing her attacks. Meanwhile, the agility-specialized assassins couldn't easily block spells with Tier 2 power. Yan Tianqing's HP fell with each hit he took. It was only a matter of time before his opponent carved it all away. As they watched, the participants below the stage felt goosebumps cover their skin. How was this a one-on-one fight? It wasn't any different than facing a 20-man magical team's bombardment. Who could survive such ruthless attacks? In the past, these players had assumed that the assassin class countered magical classes, but Zhao Yueru had destroyed that idea. She had actually hidden her strength during our fight? Frustration and rage burned in Ilo Fei's gaze as she glared at Zhao Yueru. She wasn't particularly frustrated about her defeat. After all, she had suffered countless losses before becoming famous, but this was the first time she had met someone who could best her while hiding so much of their prowess. Moreover, she and her opponent were nearly the same age. On the stage, Yan Tianqing struggled to hold on and was forced to use Vanish, disappearing again. If Zhao Yueru discovered him before his skill's cooldowns finished, now that he had used his trump card, he'd be powerless against the woman's attacks. However, if he could stay hidden until his skills were available again, he could turn the battle around. "I've been waiting for you to use this move." Despite her opponent vanishing, Zhao Yueru didn't panic. She licked her lips playfully as she said, "Let's put an end to this match." If the main body died after she used Frost Flame Space, she wouldn't be able to use any of her weapon or equipment skills. She could only use the skills and spells she had learned. However, the Ice and Fire-type doppelgangers didn't have that restriction. They even had spells she didn't. The most powerful of these spells was the combination spell, Frost Flame Oblivion. Frost Flame Oblivion was a curse that was one tier more powerful than its user, though its power could not exceed Tier 5. Upon using Frost Flame Oblivion, the Frost Flame Space would disappear. As Zhao Yueru was a Tier 1 player, Frost Flame Oblivion had the power of a Tier 2 curse. Zhao Yueru's doppelgangers chanted an incantation in unison while moving towards their target's previous location. As they did, golden divine runes began to appear across Frost Flame Space's translucent barrier, illuminating the arena. The area's ambient mana decreased rapidly as it flowed into Frost Flame Space. This increased the mana density inside the barrier to a frightening level. The spectators outside of the main stage squirmed uncomfortably as the venue's mana density decreased. "What kind of spell is that? What is she trying to do?" Although the audience didn't understand the Elementalist's actions, goosebumps covered their bodies. It felt as if Armageddon were coming for them. Moreover, this feeling grew as time passed. Meanwhile, Yan Tianqing felt the sensation intensely from inside the Frost Flame Space. She couldn't be. A possibility suddenly dawned on Yan Tianqing. Immediately, he dashed towards Zhao Yueru. Sadly, he was already too late. The Ice and Fire-type doppelgangers only needed 2 seconds to cast Frost Flame Oblivion. By the time Yan Tianqing had felt that something was amiss, the 2 doppelgangers had channeled the spell for over a second. The assassin could never cross 50 yards and launch an attack in that time. "Let's end this!" Both doppelgangers pointed their Frost Flame's wraths towards the sky as a pillar of fire and a pillar of cold air shot upward, striking the magic barrier. Suddenly, the Frost Flame Space cracked as the horrific power of ice and fire annihilated everything within the space. Yan Tianqing was obliterated. Cracks continued to spread across the barrier. The area within Frost Flame Space only calmed after 5 seconds. Nothing was left. Yan Tianqing, the Frost Flame Cheetah, and Zhao Yueru's doppelgangers. They all disappeared. However, after the Frost Flame Space faded, Zhao Yueru's main body reformed on the stage. At the same time, the bells signifying the end of the match rang, while the large screen above the stage displayed the victor. Zhao Yueru. Chapter 1425 Number 1 Elementalist. Chapter 1425, Number 1 Elementalist. Chapter 1425, Number 1 Elementalist. When Zhao Yueru's name appeared on the screen above the main stage, the venue fell silent as everyone turned to the Elementalist incredulously. They wouldn't have been so shocked if Zhao Yueru had simply defeated Yan Tianqing. But the woman had displayed overwhelmingly destructive power. If she were capable of disintegrating everything within a 100-yard radius of herself, who could ever challenge her in a one-on-one PvP match? With that terrifying spell, who could possibly stand up against the Flame Witch? Crap! She beat the second-ranked assassin just like that. Is she an NPC? With such frightening strength and spells, the Flame Witch won't have any issues winning the championship. That's right. Even if she doesn't win, she should rank first on the Empire's Elementalist ranking list. I never thought that Zero Wing had an expert like this. No wonder Zero Wing had become Star Moon Kingdom's overlord. I'm sure it won't be long before Zero Wing joins the ranks of first-rate guilds in the Black Dragon Empire. Zhao Yueru had inspired shock and awe in the crowd. With such an AoE powerhouse, other guilds would have to think twice before starting a war with Zero Wing in the fields. Zhao Yueru's firepower alone could likely rival that of a 100-man expert team. We lost? Crimson Fox stared at Zhao Yueru in a daze. At this point, he truly regretted challenging Feng to a bet. He hadn't imagined that Zero Wing had hidden a trump card like Zhao Yueru. Now, Crimson Castle had lost all hope of obtaining Hidden Fog Town. Meanwhile, Zero Wing would become Lake Heart City's undisputed overlord once it secured the town. Even with Nine Dragons Emperor's support, Crimson Castle could never compete with Zero Wing. Guild leader, are we really going to give up on Hidden Fog Town? Lonely Castle asked, reluctance coloring his face. Give up? Crimson Fox shook his head as he suddenly thought of an idea. Sneering, he said, while it is true that Crimson Castle has to give up on capturing Hidden Fog Town, that doesn't mean that other guilds cannot try. Notify the other guilds immediately and tell them to prepare the necessary manpower. Although we cannot offer any of our forces, we can supply information, weapons, equipment, and siege tools. Understood. Lonely Castle smiled as he listened to Crimson Fox's plan. Hidden Fog Town wouldn't be easy to raid. Even if Crimson Castle couldn't act, they could keep the town out of Zero Wing's hands if several third-rate guilds worked together with the support of Crimson Castle's items and information. If they succeeded, Nine Dragons Empire wouldn't forsake their guild. As long as they retained the man's support, Crimson Castle could develop into a first-rate guild eventually. After resurrecting below the stage, Yan Tianqing glanced at Zero Wing's VIP room. Commander! Ilo Fei was at a loss for words as she looked at Yan Tianqing, who wore a bitter smile. It was obvious that he had valued Stone Forest Town's garrison rights. Unfortunately, not only had he failed to obtain that right, but he had also lost 10,000 magic crystals and the Dragon's Graveyard's treasure map. I had thought that this was an opportunity, but Zero Wing really is as unfathomable as the rumors say, Yan Tianqing said as he shook his head dejectedly. He then smiled as he continued. It seems that we'll have to see to some more preparations. Commander, why is Zero Wing Stone Forest Town so important to you? It is just a town in a small kingdom. How could it possibly be any better than Super Guild's towns? With our team's strength, we shouldn't have any problems occupying one of their towns. Why should we bother with Stone Forest Town's 5 garrison slots? Iloafe was astonished. She had been flabbergasted when he had sent her to compete for a private house in Stone Forest Town. Now Yan Tianqing was adamant of obtaining Stone Forest Town's adventurer houses. It is only natural that you don't have a great opinion of Stone Forest Town. I only found out the truth from a friend. When the time comes, adventure teams like ours won't be the only ones competing for those slots. Some superpowers are preparing for the auction as well, Yan Tianqing quietly explained. He had fought in the virtual gaming world for many years now, so he had many expert acquaintances. Among them, a few were upper echelons in certain superpowers. Their information networks far surpassed any first-rate guilds. How is that possible? Isn't it just a kingdom's town? How could it even tempt superpowers? Ilofe exclaimed. Stone Forest Town might not have attracted their attention in the past, but times have changed. Zero Wing now has the advanced auction house and the advanced combat rooms. The auction house offers items that are usually very difficult to find on the market, while the combat rooms can even help peak experts grow stronger. Why wouldn't these benefits tempt superpowers? Yan Tianxing explained. If not for Stone Forest Town's nigh impenetrable defenses and the support from the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, the various superpowers would have likely sent their forces to capture it. Now that Zero Wing intends to auction off 5 adventurer houses, these various superpowers cannot miss the opportunity. Furthermore, the adventurer teams that set up in Stone Forest Town will be required to sign a contract with Zero Wing. There is no doubt that the contracted adventurer teams will receive exclusive benefits. If these superpowers join the competition, the auction will be unimaginably intense. So, we'll have to begin preparing right away. Realization dawned on Ilofe as she listened to her commander's explanation. She was stunned. She hadn't expected a recently established guild to be capable of nurturing a town that could elicit the various superpowers' desire. Although it was hard to believe, she trusted her commander fully. After all, Yan Tianxing was the one who had introduced her to the Flower of Seven Sins. The fact that Yan Tianxing knew upper echelons of a transcendental power like the Flower of Seven Sins proved how amazing the man was. Meanwhile, in one of the VIP rooms on the 2nd floor, 9 Dragons Emperor wore an exceedingly ugly expression. In contrast, Phoenix Rain's group celebrated. Big Sis Rain, Zero Wing is so full of surprises. With an expert elementalist like Zhao Yueru, we'll have a much greater advantage in the contest for Thunder Island. Having her defend a tower will be far more effective than sending 3 to 5 peak experts, Blue Phoenix said. No wonder Yifeng was so confident. Zero Wing had this trump card hidden. Zhao Yueru's power surprised Phoenix Rain as well. Due to the limited number of slots for Thunder Island's contest, it was very important that they brought experts who were strong individually. This was especially true for strategic experts like Zhao Yueru. A powerhouse like her would be much more effective than 10 top-tier experts. While the various large guilds recovered from their shock of watching Zhao Yueru fight, Feng received 10,000 magic crystals in Zero Wing's VIP room and the Dragon's Graveyard's treasure map from Yan Tianxing. Upon receiving his winnings, Feng opened the treasure map. He was very eager to learn which area Yan Tianxing's treasure map covered. He had never heard of the FFF adventurer team obtaining treasure from the Dragon's Graveyard in the past. Rather, the first-rate guild, Fantasy Shrine, and the super first-rate Dragon Phoenix Pavilion had secured the map's treasures. Hence, Feng was surprised to hear that the FFF adventurer team had obtained a treasure map for the area so soon. Treasure maps in God's domain were generally unique items. Each hidden treasure would only have a single corresponding treasure map. Without the corresponding treasure map, no one would find the hidden goods. These treasures were hidden in special spaces, and the map was the key to accessing them. Chapter 1426 Instant Fame. Chapter 1426 Instant Fame. Chapter 1426 Instant Fame. After unfurling the treasure map, Feng inspected its attribute panel. The information displayed confused Feng. Aside from the words Dragon's Graveyard, the treasure map didn't have any information to display. There wasn't even a general map for the Dragon's Graveyard. Guild leader, is there a problem with the treasure map? Gentle Snow asked curiously when she noticed the strange expression on Feng's face. There is indeed a problem, Feng said, chuckling. This treasure map requires a master-ranked appraisal. When he tried to inspect the treasure map forcefully, the system notified him of the requirement. Master-ranked? Gentle Snow was astonished. Although one could easily find appraisal shops in NPC cities, the NPCs working in these stores were, at best, advanced appraisers. It was impossible to find a master appraiser in these shops. Although a lot of players had taken on the appraiser subclass, their progress was extremely slow. After all, Players had to appraise a large number of top-tier items to gain proficiency. Even the various large guilds had only nurtured a few advanced appraisers. As for master appraisers, it was very difficult for every subclass in God's domain to reach the master rank. However, what truly surprised Feng was not the fact that the treasure map needed a master appraiser, but that it had to be appraised to begin with. Based on what he had heard in the past, the maps leading to the dragon's graveyard's 3 great treasures hadn't needed appraisals. One could just inspect them. Could this treasure map lead to something other than the 3 great treasures? Feng's curiosity grew. Immediately, he activated Omniscient Eyes to inspect the treasure map. Fortunately, Omniscient Eyes could rival a master-ranked appraisal. After 20 seconds, the treasure map's information began to reveal itself. What? Feng was dumbfounded when he saw the displayed information. As he had guessed, the treasure map Yan Tianxing had given him didn't lead to one of the 3 great treasures. This map wasn't even a treasure map. It was a map to the dragon's graveyard's secret land, the dragon's nest. This secret land was far more valuable than the 3 great treasures. Unlike the treasures, which would disappear once someone claimed them, players could periodically enter the secret land an indefinite number of times. Like the sea dragon's secret land, one could obtain all sorts of precious items in the dragon's nest. Yet, funny enough, Yan Tianxing had treated this item like a typical treasure map. After giving the matter some thought, Feng realized that it was to be expected. After all, secret lands were incredibly rare. On the other hand, treasure was common in large maps like the Dragon's Graveyard. If a player obtained a map with the words Dragon's Graveyard, it wouldn't be unusual for them to assume it was just a treasure map. Guild leader, it couldn't be a fake, could it? Gentle Snow thought of a possibility when she saw Feng's surprise. There were many treasures in God's domain. However, there was also a large number of fakes. In fact, a large majority of the treasure maps players obtained weren't real. It is. Feng nodded. I knew Yan Tianxing couldn't be that generous. Gentle Snow sighed, somewhat disappointed. If Zero Wing could obtain the Dragon's Graveyard's treasures, it would significantly help the guild's development. If an adventurer team like FFF used the treasure, it might even elevate the team's overall strength to a whole new level. How could he have been willing to gamble such a precious item? This isn't a treasure map. It's a map to a secret land in the Dragon's Graveyard, Feng said, smiling when he saw Gentle Snow's dejected expression. What? It's a map to the Dragon's Graveyard's secret land? How is that possible? Gentle Snow's eyes widened in shock. For a moment, she even thought Feng was playing a trick. Take a look for yourself, Feng said, chuckling. He then passed the secret land map to Gentle Snow. It's real! If Yan Tianxing finds this out, he'll lose his mind. Gentle Snow's eyes sparkled as she looked at the map. Needless to say, a secret land in a forbidden area like the Dragon's Graveyard would be high quality. Moreover, the reward for clearing a secret land for the first time would most likely rival, or even surpass, the Dragon's Graveyard's treasure. Although subsequent visits wouldn't yield as many benefits as the first, the secret land could be raided indefinitely. In the long term, the income from exploring the secret land would exceed the 3 great treasures. However, this map had a flaw. The secret land would be very challenging to reach. The dragon's nest was located in the dragon's graveyard's inner region. Moreover, it was very close to its core. Currently, the Black Dragon Empire's various large guilds were struggling to explore the outer region, much less the inner area. Before they could reach the secret land, the monsters in the inner region would likely wipe them out. However, Gentle Snow did not know that Feng had already prepared to visit the dragon's nest. While the other large guilds might have trouble reaching the inner region, the same could not be said for Feng. After all, he had the all-round device. He didn't need to worry about the low mana density in the dragon's graveyard. Moreover, the dragon's nest only opened once a week. They still had 2 days until the next reset. It would be a huge waste not to visit the secret land. The only problem was that he needed more all-round devices. After Zhao Yueru's match with Yan Tianxing, the competition proceeded as usual. With each match, the audience's passion grew. After all, aside from Zhao Yueru, the weakest players who made it to the quarterfinals had reached the flowing water realm. However, faced with Zhao Yueru's unreasonable frost flame space, even peak experts would succumb to death. In this competition, players' cooldowns would reset upon finishing a match, and this included their weapons and equipment skills. As a result, Zhao Yueru could use Frost Flame Space and Frost Flame Oblivion in every one of her matches. If her main body remained alive, she could use Frost Flame Hell as well. With the stage's limited amount of space to move around, her opponents had no hope of dodging both of her large-scale destruction spells. In the end, Zhao Yueru had won the championship, becoming the greatest dark horse in the competition this time around. At the same time, the Flame Witch's name resounded throughout the Black Dragon Empire as Zhao Yueru became the Empire's #1 Elementalist. As for this uproar's main perpetrator, Zhao Yueru found this situation somewhat unbelievable. If this had been a competition of combat standards, she wouldn't have made it into the top 30, yet she had won the competition with the help of the Frostflame's wrath. The strength of a fragmented legendary weapon had her mesmerized. Unsurprisingly, Zero Wing had become the #1 guild in this ranking competition and obtained the invitation to participate in the Secret Pavilion's upcoming internal auction. The Black Dragon Empire's official forums were ablaze with activity. Nobody could have imagined that a previously unknown guild would rise to become the competition's top guild. Zhao Yueru's astonishing prowess fascinated the Empire's players. She was the perfect combination of beauty and violence. Zero Wing will definitely rise in the Black Dragon Empire now. I heard that Zero Wing has been recruiting members in Lake Heart City. I'm going to apply when I have time. For a time, players swarmed Zero Wing's residence in Lake Heart City. Far more players wanted to join the guild than Gentle Snow had anticipated. To accommodate more members in the branch guild, she began her preparations to capture Hidden Fog Town, using this opportunity to develop her corner of Zero Wing. Big Sis Snow, over 10,000 third-rate guild members, who are allied with Crimson Castle, have secretly gathered at the guild's residence in Lake Heart City. Moreover, this number is rapidly climbing. By the looks of it, it seems as if they intend to rush towards Hidden Fog Town. Unknown players have also ambushed many of our members grinding near the town. I suspect that this is Crimson Castle's doing. Crimson Fox is quite persistent. Since he can't take action openly, he's moving against us in secret? Gentle Snow frowned as she listened to her subordinate's report. Clearly, their previous agreement with Crimson Castle had been a farce. They're moving in secret? Revealing a faint smile, Feng reasoned. It seems that if we don't teach these guilds a proper lesson, they'll assume that Zero Wing is easy to bully. Since Crimson Fox has gone back on his word, he can't blame me for refusing to show mercy. Chapter 1427 Causing a Storm with One Sentence. Chapter 1427 Causing a Storm with One Sentence. Chapter 1427 Causing a Storm with One Sentence. Snow, have someone compile a report on Crimson Castle for me. To be precise, I want information on the towns the guild controls. The more detail, the better, Feng ordered. Detailed information on Crimson Castle's guild towns? Gentle Snow couldn't help her growing confusion. Very quickly, however, she thought of a possibility. Shocked, she asked, Guild leader, do you intend to raid one of their guild towns? Raid one of Crimson Castle's towns? Feng shook his head. Chuckling, he said, No. I want to raid them all. If this had happened earlier, Feng wouldn't have many options to deal with Crimson Castle. At most, he'd be able to weather a battle of attrition. However, things had changed. Now, he was rich. Not only had he made a killing from the Zero Wing auction, but he had also obtained a frightening profit from Stone Forest Town's battle arena and auction house. Right now, players were almost always signing up to join the battle arena and auction house. Including the 10,000 magic crystals he had won from Yantianqing, he had over 190,000 on hand. During the war with Heaven's Burial and the Monster Army, he only had around 50,000 magic crystals prepared. It had been impossible to maximize his war weapon's power. If he had had enough magic crystals during those battles, he would have easily won the war. Now that he had over 190,000 magic crystals, Crimson Castle was simply trying to get itself killed by daring to provoke him. He was even confident of capturing a first-rate guild's town with the resources he had available, let alone a second-rate guild like Crimson Castle. Raid all of Crimson Castle's towns? Feng's declaration shocked everyone in the VIP room. A guild town was vital to a guild's development. Hence, guild towns were generally heavily fortified with static defenses and many players, making them very difficult to capture. One would need to prepare quite a bit to capture a guild town, yet Feng had decided to take all of the towns under Crimson Castle's control. This was insane. Snow, get the branch guild's main force members ready. And spread the news. I want every guild in the Black Dragon Empire to know. We'll take action as soon as you've gathered the information I requested. Feng instructed. We're not hiding our intentions? Gentle Snow was dazed for a long moment after listening to Feng's command. When raiding an enemy guild town, one generally kept their operations a secret. It would give a force the greatest chance of success, yet Feng wanted to declare his intentions publicly. It was no different than saying, I'm going to raid you, so you best get ready. However, since her guild leader had given her the order, she had no choice but to follow through. Although Nine Dragons Emperor quietly backed Crimson Castle, taking over the guild's towns would be a piece of cake if Zero Wing got serious and mobilized all of its elite and expert players. After all, Zero Wing had an overwhelming advantage over Crimson Castle in terms of both quality and quantity. Only, doing so would strain Zero Wing's funds. Meanwhile, before the players in the arena left the venue, Gentle Snow had tasked her subordinates to make the announcement, stating Zero Wing's plans to raid Crimson Castle's guild towns in the Lake Heart City region. The news caused an uproar throughout the Black Dragon Empire. What's going on? Zero Wing plans to attack Crimson Castle? Didn't Crimson Castle lose its bet to Zero Wing? Does the guild have to be so ruthless? No. I've heard that a few third-rate guilds allied with Crimson Castle have mobilized their forces to cause trouble around Hidden Fog Town. It is clear that they are trying to keep the town out of Zero Wing's hands. Zero Wing's likely infuriated. Even so, isn't this unwise? Guild towns aren't that easy to raid. The majority of Zero Wing's forces are stationed in Star Moon Kingdom. With them so far away, it'll be even more difficult to capture Crimson Castle's towns. The players on the forums discussed the matter heatedly. Almost nobody was optimistic about Zero Wing's chances. Although Zero Wing had a branch guild in Lake Heart City, it lacked strength in the Black Dragon Empire. The branch guild simply wasn't on the same level as the main branch in Star Moon Kingdom. Teleporting players from Star Moon Kingdom to Lake Heart City was costly. In addition, Crimson Castle was allied with 4 other second-rate guilds. Those guilds would lend Crimson Castle aid if it were attacked. Even the Empire's first-rate guilds would struggle to raid one of Crimson Castle's towns. And even if success were possible, none of these guilds would be willing to pay the price. Ha! Zero Wing must have lost its mind. Do they think that our town's defenses are just for display? Crimson Fox, who had long since returned to his guild's residence, laughed when he heard the news. He had planned to fight it out with Zero Wing slowly, but it would seem that preparing for such had been a waste. Although the 2 towns Crimson Castle controlled were not particularly popular among the general populace, both were close to ore and herb-rich maps, and the guild and its 4 allies used them as resource warehouses. Naturally, he had invested plenty of resources in the town's defenses. Each town had 8 defense turrets, magic barriers, and other war weapons. Even a 200,000-man elite army wouldn't pose a threat to the towns. Furthermore, the 4 second-rate guilds had constructed temporary guild residences in both. Their members could reinforce the towns at a moment's notice. Even if Zero Wing mobilized all of its elite members, it could never capture their towns. Guild leader, we've just received a message from Nine Dragons Emperor's people. He said that he will send a 200-man expert team to protect both towns. Each team will also have 6 gnome cannons, Lonely Castle reported. Nine Dragons Emperor has also offered to ignore our previous failure, allowing Crimson Castle to remain the 5 guilds leader if we give Zero Wing a good beating. Go to the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion's messengers, and let Nine Dragons Emperor know that he can rest assured. Unless the sun rises from the west, Zero Wing's members should not even think about setting foot in Crimson Castle's towns, much less capture them. Crimson Fox responded confidently. Meanwhile, in the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion's residence in the Black Dragon Empire, Phoenix Rain nearly jumped in surprise when she received the news. She had never expected such insanity from Zero Wing. She immediately contacted Feng. Guild leader Black Flame, do you really plan to raid Crimson Castle's guild towns? Phoenix Raid asked seriously. That's right. Feng nodded. I beg of you to discard the idea. Nine Dragons Emperor is Crimson Castle's backer. Moreover, he instructed his subordinates to create resource warehouses in both towns. He's already stationed his personal Shadow Dragon Legion in the towns long term, as well. Phoenix Rain explained. The Shadow Dragon Legion was one of the 3 trump card legions under Nine Dragons Emperor's command. Among the 3 legions, Martial Dragon's War Dragon Legion was the strongest. Although the Shadow Dragon Legion's overall strength was weaker than the War Dragon Legion, it was fond of large-scale battles. Hence, Nine Dragons Emperor had sent his men to protect Crimson Castle's 2 towns. Zero Wing had just made a name for itself in the Black Dragon Empire. Before accumulating sufficient strength, it was unwise to raid these 2 towns. The Shadow Dragon Legion? Feng had heard of the Legion before. In response, however, he simply chuckled and thanked the woman. Thank you for your warning, Phoenix Pavilion Master. I will be careful. I still have much to tend to, so if there's nothing else, I'll be disconnecting the call now. Saying so, Feng ended their conversation. What is this man thinking? When Phoenix Rain had seen Feng's calm expression, she wondered if Feng actually understood how powerful the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion's trump card legions were. Any superpower's trump card legions could annihilate an elite army of tens of thousands. Furthermore, the Shadow Dragon Legion specialized in large-scale combat. Meanwhile, Gentle Snow finished gathering information on Crimson Castle's guild towns and handed the report to her guild leader. Chapter 1428 Aqua Rose's Class Change. Chapter 1428 Aqua Rose's Class Change. Chapter 1428 Aqua Rose's Class Change. Guild Leader, both towns have been heavily fortified. Each town has 8 defense turrets. Normally, each town also has over 15,000 players. Including the other 4 second-rate guilds members, there should be over 20,000 players residing in the towns. Crimson Castle has also employed high-quality NPC guards. Of the 1,000 NPCs in each town, over 60 are Tier 2. Capturing these towns won't be easy. Moreover, as soon as we attack, the other guilds will send reinforcements. Based on our estimates, each town should have over 100,000 players. We'll likely have to use everything Zero Wing has to capture them. Gentle Snow briefly explained the situation in the towns. She had been shocked to learn about their defenses. First-rate guilds' towns usually only had half a dozen or so defense turrets. After all, these defensive structures were expensive to build. Hiring high-tiered NPC guards wasn't cheap either. Generally, a town had a mix of Tier 1 and Tier 0 NPCs. Guilds only hired stronger guards if the town were particularly important. Yet, both of Crimson Castle's towns had impressive defenses. Zero Wing couldn't even strike the weaker town first, using its success to damage Crimson Castle's morale. Good. Instruct both the main force and the Dark God's Legion to set out. Since it's closer to Lakeheart City, we'll target Green Rain Town first. Feng said and nodded after glancing through the information. We're only mobilizing our main force and the Dark God's Legion? Gentle Snow was stunned. Was this a joke? Together, Zero Wing's main force and the Dark God's Legion only had over 1,000 members. Even if they were experts, sending 1,000-plus players to raid a guild town was reaching for the impossible. Of course. Why would we need so many people just to raid a town? Feng asked Gentle Snow curiously. The woman was speechless. They were going to raid a town protected by tens of thousands of players, yet in Feng's eyes, they were just heading out to exterminate a bunch of common monsters. However, once Feng had given the order, Gentle Snow had no choice but to dispatch the two forces. As Feng prepared to lead his army to Green Rain Town, he received a communication request from Aqua Rose. "Why are you out so soon?" Feng asked. It had only been a few days since Aqua Rose and the others had begun to challenge the Sea God's legacy. None of them should have returned this soon. "I'm not fast. Time in the legacy space is different from God's domain. 4 days inside is the equivalent of 1 in God's domain," Aqua Rose explained. After entering the legacy space, the time flow difference had shocked her. If not for the lack of EXP from the monsters inside, she would have leveled up a few times. Instead, she was still level 50. "Well? How did it go?" Feng asked. The Sea God's legacy contained 10 individual legacies. Any one of them could improve a player's strength tremendously. Hee. Take a look at this," Aqua Rose said as she waved an icy blue crystalline staff. Streams of water rotated around it, and the staff itself radiated a faint trace of divine might. "Could you have?" Feng could not help his shock as he stared at the staff. "That's right. I've obtained the Sea God's legacy and have officially become a Tier 2 player," Aqua Rose announced in delight. She had gone through a lot of trouble to obtain the Sea God's legacy. Fortunately, she had consumed the moonlight fruits before entering the legacy space, slightly increasing her physique. With refinement realm combat standards, she was able to clear the legacy trial. Not only had she obtained the Sea God's legacy, but she had also acquired the Sea Dragon Staff, a growth-type weapon specifically made to amplify the Sea God's legacy's strengths. Unlike ordinary growth-type weapons, the Sea Dragon Staff could reach fragmented legendary rank. It would help Aqua Rose display the full potential of the Sea God's legacy. Feng was dazed for a moment. The Sea God's legacy! He had only hoped that Aqua Rose or one of the others would obtain the Sea God's Guard legacy. He hadn't been terribly optimistic that one of them would actually obtain the Sea God's legacy. After all, the Sea God's legacy even surpassed peak legacies. It was extremely difficult to obtain. "Guild leader, you're going to raid a town, right? Can I join you?" Aqua Rose asked. "Of course you can," Feng said, laughing. Even if she hadn't asked, he would have summoned her to join the battle. He was not certain of exactly how powerful the Sea God's legacy was. He only knew that the legacy's owner would be an absolute overlord at sea, invincible among opponents of the same tier and level in naval combat. Naturally, he was curious to see how powerful Aqua Rose could become with the Sea God's legacy at her command. "Wonderful! I'll head over right away," Aqua Rose said, smiling. Lake Heart City Region, Green Rain Town. Since Zero Wing had announced its intention of raiding Crimson Castle's guild towns, the normally lackluster Green Rain Town brimmed with players. Crimson Castle and its allies weren't the only players in the town. A large number of independent players and members of the various major powers in the Black Dragon Empire had made the trip to watch the upcoming guild war. The reason these spectators had gathered here instead of in Blackhorn Town, Crimson Castle's other town, was Zero Wing's announcement that it would raid Green Rain Town before moving on. Zero Wing is really bold. When others tried to raid a town, they tried to keep their movements secret, yet Zero Wing publicly declared its plan to raid Crimson Castle's towns and which town it'd hit first. It's likely that Zero Wing wants to show off its strength and frighten the other guilds by ensuring that players are here to watch. However, doing so will make raiding Crimson Castle's towns much more difficult. Zero Wing is trying too hard to appear powerful. Even if Zero Wing is Star Moon Kingdom's overlord, it has only recently started to develop its branch guild in the Black Dragon Empire. The branch guild still lacks various aspects. Waging a war against Crimson Castle right now is foolish. I've heard that the other 4 second-rate guilds allied with Crimson Castle have dispatched 150,000 elite members to Green Rain Town. Including Crimson Castle's 30,000 elite members, there are 180,000 elite players fortifying the town. Taking into account their terrain advantage, Zero Wing isn't likely to succeed even if it sends every one of its members in the Empire. In the end, Zero Wing will embarrass itself by attacking Crimson Castle. The players resting in Green Rain Town's bars merrily discussed the upcoming war. Zero Wing had already become the center of attention in the Black Dragon Empire after winning the ranking competition. Following its declaration of war, even more players began to watch the guild. Although the Empire's various guilds frequently clashed, very few were willing to raid an enemy guild town. After all, guild towns were easy to defend but difficult to attack. Without an absolute advantage, no guild would be foolish enough to raid an enemy's town. Meanwhile, Crimson Castle and its allies' upper echelons had gathered in a captivating room within the guild's Green Rain Town residence. Guild leader Fox, our guild's members have arrived. They will be at your command. A dignified level 45 shield warrior reported to Crimson Fox, who lounged in the guild leader's throne. If that is not enough, our 4 guilds can still mobilize an additional 60,000 elite members. We'll put Zero Wing through the ringer. Good. As long as we injure the guild and make 9 Dragons Emperor happy, we'll all receive even more resources in the future, Crimson Fox said, smiling. With over 180,000 elite players fortifying Green Rain Town, not even a superpower had any hope of a successful raid, much less Zero Wing. As long as they devastated Zero Wing's army, the guild's development in Lake Heart City would suffer. Guild leader, our scouts have reported that Zero Wing's members are on the way. Lonely Castle, who stood behind Crimson Fox, whispered in the man's ear. They're finally here? Crimson Fox smiled. He then asked, how many are there? There seems to be only a little over 1,000 players. Lonely Castle replied, uncertain. You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.